Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Was Dark Magician with Sekiryuutei Fullmetal Alchemist crossover movie. Before we start, please go support jacknnder for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. Who would expect a 13-year-old boy to forever change the fate of the three great biblical factions and their allies? Well, let's join Hyoudou Issei, Sekiryuutei, magician of darkness, hero or villain, on this journey to discover something as simple as the darkness of the fact of existing. Highschool DxDx Fullmetal Alchemist crossover. Chapter 1. Oni-chan, I am a demon. The sun was giving its last breath of life that day, trapped between the clouds of the sky, whose hearts of fog and water were beginning to darken the streets and alleys of this Japanese city. At that time, most people on the day shift began to gather their belongings and prepare to return home, while those on the night shift prepared for a normal day-to-day routine. Young people of different ages, genders and colors walked through the streets on their way to the stations. They have homework, or they are just going to waste time, some would say, ordinary lives dancing in the society where they were born, free to choose their destiny and end, good, bad, beautiful, ugly, light, dark. For them there was nothing more than the simple idea of saying, I want. But for other creatures, camouflaged from human society by disguises and smoke screens, they only tasted the final delight of knowing freedom. She sighed as she looked away at the sky from the window, sky, intense blue like the day before sunset and after sunrise, hugging her sensual and statuesque body, intense and beautiful, sculpted like the goddesses of Greek legends. Her extravagant hair of an intense bright crimson danced between her back and where she loses her name, enveloping her like a fur coat from some extinct animal or a hand-woven blanket, and of course it was, woven centuries ago by her ancestors. Her grandmother, her father, her brother, her nephew and herself carried that seal engraved on their foreheads since the day they were born. Couldn't ask for a worse curse. Then her ignorant vision of the crowd failed her. She traveled alone, attracted by the magnets of her destiny, and moving the thread of life towards the bright horizon bathed in caramel and chestnut colors. They walked through the crowd of students older than him without being seen or noticed. That must be why he enjoyed the trip. Although making noise is typical of him, he stood in front of the large building of the Co-Academy, named after the city. Didn't they have a better idea? He wondered, with his lip curled in a sly smile directed at no one and everyone and everything. Smiling was good, he knows he should do it. He pulled a mobile device from the pockets of his black jacket. The phone with a wallpaper of Nino Nakano quickly performed its communication function. He spelled out a few words from between his lips, quickly put it away and waited only a few seconds, as she quickly looked out. The young woman who was approaching him was walking quickly. She had long brown hair, where the top half and the locks that stuck out were almost identical to those of the young man. An almost family relationship could be seen. Oni-chan, what are you doing here? Did Oka-san ask you to eat? Said the older girl. In her second year of high school, Sarah Hyoudou was the first daughter of the family. With a tall figure and slender legs, she was known as the third most beautiful girl in Co-Academy, named by the students themselves. Yes, there's a ranking system, it's Japan. Sarah Oni-san, you are really absent-minded. Look, you forgot your lunch and I had to eat and get it, even though I was a little late. Sorry, I was busy, said the boy. Younger brother of the Hyoudou family, this young man is called Issei Hyoudou, 13 years old. Yes, you will, Issei, you are very bad, said Sarah, somewhat red in embarrassment, in addition to remembering that due to her carelessness she had to buy her lunch at the cafeteria. Not for nothing, but she prefers her mother's culinary saison. Well, I have to go. I'm finishing and then I will retire to the club. Tell Oka-san that I will be late. Well, at the same time as always, said Sarah, saying goodbye to her younger brother in her own way, a kiss on the cheek. The whole spectacle had a silent admirer. Rius watched with interest from the club window the interaction between her subject and his familiar, although to be honest she only spent her time watching the young brown-haired boy. An almost unknown and silent attraction took over her. Feeling a slight tickle on her cheek and fluttered between her crimson hair, an air of mystery and intrigue but warmth and tenderness, although as quickly as it arrived it vanished, leaving in its wake the feeling of emptiness and loneliness, but beyond a simple empty idea born from the corner of her mind that she always keeps hidden. It was a unique, different and equal loneliness, as if he always lived with her, a friend who does not speak but is always there. These emotions were a simple coming and going that lasted seconds, but when you feel that it seems like they lasted for hours, he continued to look up at the brothers who were already taking separate paths. He will have to talk to Sarah about her carelessness. The last thing he needs is a sick piece from eating that cafeteria food. He lost sight of the brunette, but the young man was still there, standing, perhaps waiting for the electrical impulse from his brain to his legs and feet. Although that would be absurd, he had never heard of a being that would reboot itself in the middle of leaving school, although she does. At that, the young man's head moved in her direction, sky and sunset. His gaze filled with intense fire like sun and caramel crashed head-on and without breaks against the redhead's clear and bright sky, feeling as if the landscape of an ancient vision was completed. Sky and sun that leads to shadows. What? This was confusing to her. Issei noticed her. Damn, it was incredible, a sight worthy of a photograph, or better yet, a painting presented in some art gallery. She was art. She camouflaged her nervousness and some clumsiness with a smile. Although it would be considered a somewhat seductive act, it was nothing far from reality. Rius blushed a little. They always smiled at her, but they showed all their teeth. This was the first time. She tried to return the greeting with the same clumsiness as before. After that, the young man walked away from the exit. Rius remained silent for a moment, somehow trying to continue watching the brown-haired boy, although in vain. The memory of that moment was recorded in her own memory almost quickly. At that I sigh, denying it would be useless. The term Shotokan should suit her, that was it. He put that thought aside. Maybe he should distract himself from his daily routine, although the piece of paper scribbled on his desk would be the last thought of the day, and the nightly companion of his misfortune. Well, at least there was something good, although in that a somewhat macabre idea appeared in her mind. The shadow of a smile appeared on her sensual lips, and her eyes shouted her plan to the four winds in silent words. I still have 8 pawns. He is a demon after all, evil makes him good. At the same time, while a certain redhead was thinking about the idea that would be the most brilliant of his life, note the sarcasm, Issei turned the corner somewhat restless but at a slow pace, better focused on the healthy conversation with the voice in his head. Wait, what? Drag, hey drag, wake up. And right now the voice in his head was snoring like a pig with chest problems, although the insistent call of his container, an eternal headache, woke him up, with scolding, but at least he woke up. What? What happened? Are we there yet? Asked the voice, a thick and very old voice. No, stop sleeping so much, because one day you won't wake up. Stop talking nonsense, mate, tell me, what do you want? Asked the voice known as Drag, a character we will get to know more in depth later. Who was that girl at the window? The one who kept looking at me. Huh? Window? What window? The one that faces the dimensional gap, you huge useless dragon, the window of Ko Academy. Issei shouted as a strong headache broke out in his temples. Let me see, let me remember. I think it is her aura was very pure. Yes, I also noticed that. It is not a human being. I remembered now, it must be Rius Gry, the second daughter of the clan of the same name, sister of a being of great power, said Drag in a disinterested manner. Sister of a being of great power? Gry? That surname is related to the Mao Lucifer. Or rather, the Mao's replacement is not a Mao by blood, but in terms of power anyway. I recommend that you be careful, my friend. The demons, the race to which she belongs, are very jealous, said Drag, giving one of his pieces of wisdom, which never worked. I know, the last thing I need is a battle with the demons that dominate this area, said Issei. He cut off the communication after thanking the dragon sealed in his soul. Entering a dark and desolate alley, he showed off his gifts and prodigy. He activated his magic, a power he has since birth, and created a small, light containment barrier around him, more precisely to prevent other humans from approaching him and to avoid being tracked by the magical creatures that roamed this city. Ko is definitely very noisy lately, Issei said as he used more of his magic. Don't even mention it, they don't even respect sleeping hours anymore, said Drag. Issei just sighed again and created a magic circle, a circumference of magic runes. The energy circulated through them and made the magic and elemental powers materialize in the physical plane. He entered it. In the middle, the image of a dragon on its side with the drawing of one of its claws as an attack was the coat of arms and the catalyst of that blessed energy. Crimson flames appeared around him, enveloping the young man who did not seem scared. Then the light enveloped him and he disappeared in the so-called transportation circle. He opened his can of Coca-Cola, bringing the opening of the can to his lips and letting the sweet, caramel-like black liquid flood his taste buds and leave a slight, burning trail down his throat as he took it in one gulp. He walked down the corridor leading to the courtyard, greeting everyone who greeted him, then left and walked down the path toward the old building, erected as an example of the former structure of the academy. Perhaps that was why they liked that building. Her body swayed as she walked. Her brown hair was loose over her straight back. Shapely and very well sculpted legs gave way to wide hips, a firm butt and a wasp waist. Her breasts were medium to large in size, but not the titanic size of her king and queen. But they must have some weight, such good columns. Sarah aroused the interest of most of the young people at the academy. Without a doubt, her beauty was notorious, but at the level of Rius and Aquino, never. He reached the base of the building. Inside the building was the portal to a completely different and fascinating world, full of mysteries and many intrigues, but also of fantasies and many stories. Few people have the necessary knowledge to cross the curtain of the everyday. Pull back the curtain of monotony and what is normality for the human issue and be able to fully enter the world governed by angels and demons, fallen angels and gods, various mythologies that coexist and fight to survive. I enter the building and hear the creaking of the wood, squared by the knots in the floor. I go up the stairs somewhat quickly and reach the second floor. I check the doors until I find the one I was looking for. Occult Research Club. I smile seeing that I was just in time. Thank goodness. He knocked and waited until they answered his call. Era, Sarah-san, said the beautiful young woman who received her. Aquino Himejima, the club's Fukubucho and one of the most beautiful women on the team, was wearing the academy uniform. With the slight change of some sensual black mid-calf stockings, she had her dark blue, almost black, hair tied in an unusual ponytail, her killer body highlighted by the tight uniform, especially in the chest area, where a large amount of flesh was piled up. Her amethyst eyes sparkled with an air of play and some mischief. "You're late, you little troublemaker," Aquino said. "Sorry, Aquino-san, but I was busy." Era, calm down. "We were waiting for you," said Aquino, letting the young woman pass. Sarah smiled and walked into the club room and base of operations for her work like hell. Inside it was very comfortable, decorated in such a way as to really look like a space for research into the occult arts, candles and old books. Even the dust looked real. That's real, she told herself. Inside there were two well-arranged sofas, in the center of both a small wooden table covered in sweets and candy wrappers. Sarah smiled somewhat tensely at that. "Hello, Kiba." "Hello, Kaneko-chan," said Sarah, greeting the two young men sitting on both sofas. "Hello, Sarah-san," said a blonde with blue eyes, Kiba, wearing the same uniform as all the male students on campus, plus having a mole under his left eye, adorning his handsome boy face. He smiled at the brunette, his classmate. "Senpai, you're late as always," said the other person. She was short, in fact the shortest in the club, Tuja Kaneko, a girl with white hair and light hazel eyes, large, somewhat limp features, as well as her still undeveloped lowly body and poker face. "Yes, I'm sorry, classes ran too long," said Sarah, leaving her suitcase on the empty seat next to Kaneko and giving her her lunch treats. "So you'll forgive me," she said, winning at her. "Senpai arrived on time," said Kaneko, taking the candies. Sarah smiled at her Kohai's jokes, then she stood in front of the desk of the king in charge of this group and these lands. "Good afternoon, Bucho," said Sarah, making a small bow. Although her words and greetings fell on deaf ears, as well as her actions on blind eyes, because, unlike Rius Gry's usual strict but kind attitude, it was replaced with a look towards the window, away from everything and everyone. Bucho? Is Bucho okay?" said the brunette. "Huh! Oh, Sarah, you're here," "Hello," Rius said, coming back to her senses. Sarah smiled and returned the greeting. Many people were lost in their thoughts and said to themselves, nothing bad was happening. With that thought, everyone dismissed that strange but unimportant event, everyone except Aquino was Rius' queen, but mostly her closest friend after Sana Shirt Orai, Noticing such drastic but almost imperceptible changes was common in her when it came to Rius. Someone is very distracted, Aquino said to her king. Yes, I've been thinking about some things, said Rius, standing up like the rest. First of all, there's a rumor going around among the high-class devils, the elite to which I belong. Apparently, the force field covering Ko has suffered slight damage, nothing that can't be repaired. Still, you should be alert since various stray devils, as we know them, are lurking around the downtown area, said the king to his pieces. The other is a somewhat more delicate matter. Everyone paid attention to their king. As you know, Sauna has increased the number of pieces in her entourage, apparently including 2 pawns. Although there is a slight suspicion that one may have required more than 1 piece, the number of pieces an individual consumes determines their value within the system. If this is true, as a rival and equal to Sauna, I cannot afford to sit idly by, so I will increase the number of allies. Reviewing the academy papers, many are good candidates, but none meet my expectations, said Rius, throwing the papers on the table. Any suggestions? Everyone was speechless, thinking about the hundreds and thousands of faces they see every day, although none of them suited them as their new companion. I guess that's a no. We're sorry, Bucho, said Kiba. It doesn't matter, after all, I already found a candidate, Rius said. Everyone was somewhat impressed by that. Rius choosing a person to enter her entourage just like that is not something that happens every day. I've only seen him once, but I can feel the potential he has inside. And who is it? Bucho, who did you choose? Sarah said somewhat impatiently. For some strange reason she feels that she is not going to like this. The young man who called you at the entrance this afternoon. I knew something was wrong. Is your younger brother, right? What? Sarah said. Nanny? Era, said Aquino, remembering Hyoudou Issei is a few years away from entering high school. He is 13 years old. Well, it's him. It's perfect, Rius said. Wait, Oniai-chan? But he's a child. He has no idea what's going on here. I'm not going to put my little brother in this situation, Sarah said firmly, with some anger in her voice. Everyone stared at her, causing Smoke to rise to her feet and her to blush like a tomato. Sorry, Rius-sama, it's just that Sarah said, trying to make an excuse and apologize. Still, Rius simply raised her hand. Calm down. I understand. I'm glad to see that attitude. You love him, don't you? He is your brother after all, Rius said calmly. Well, yes, I love him as a big sister. I love him like a big sister. Is there any other way to love a brother? Sarah-senpai said, Kaneko throwing a dagger. Don't say that, Kaneko-chan, Sarah said with tears pouring down her face. It doesn't matter. Can I ask why my brother? Rius stood seriously in front of Sarah. Both were almost the same height, yet for some reason Rius felt somewhat small in front of her chess piece. Simple. Sarah possesses a rather unusual, not to say powerful sacred gear. It is understood that normally sacred gear users who have close kinship with other people have the latter develop an equal sacred gear. It is not surprising that, seeing the potential that you, Sarah Hyoudou, possess, your younger brother cannot have it, said Rius. That left Sarah and the rest of the group silent. Kiba and Kaneko internally debated Rius's words, having to admit that most of them were true, although Aquino thought there was something more to this. Rius had never lived with the young Hyoudou. What would catch his attention? Maybe having him in front of her would make her understand her king's insistence on this subject, that and bothering Rius with his talkative piece of meat. But he could be in a lot of danger, Sarah said. Sarah-senpai, Bucho wouldn't put an innocent person's life in danger if it wasn't for a reason, right, Bucho? Kaneko said, trying to calm Sarah down. That's right. If he saw that your brother had such potential, you should try to talk to the guy who can best make this decision, said Kiba. Yes, perhaps. He has always stood out for being very smart. Maybe that caught Bucho's attention, Sarah said, looking at Rius. Yes, it can be. Sarah then sighed to get the bad vibes out of her body. Okay, I'll try to talk to him and bring him back. But I hope I can protect him. I don't like this because it's dangerous, but yes, I've always wanted to tell him about this world since I was reincarnated, said Sarah. So, this is your chance. Besides, said Rius, approaching Sarah and speaking into her ear, think that you will be able to be with him for all eternity. Since you don't age like a human, you will feel alone when your entire family leaves this world, said Rius sweetly to the brunette's hatred. The whisper of a demon. Sarah muttered that, being left alone, Although she understands that she must say goodbye to her mother, she knows that she will remain the same. Even when it is Issei's turn, she would remain the same. That idea placed in her mind tormented her. Okay, let's do it, said the brunette, not very sure but fearful. Fine deal, Rius said. Chapter 2, Wani-chan, I am a dragon. The cold air swept across the frozen plain in the form of a devastating breeze, lifting all disdain for life and taking it to the extreme. Although he was only bothered by the fact that his coat was not fulfilling its duty of protecting him from the freezing air, his thoughts traveled to the brat who still hadn't appeared anywhere. He was returning to the absurd. Even so, he blew the frozen air from his lungs and smiled with memories and life. It was interesting to come back here after so much time, not so many years. For him, time was just an illusion imposed by man to understand his surroundings. When you live so long time, it becomes a simple matter of being and not being and loses its value in the world. A scarlet glow brought him out of his thoughts. He smiled again as he had returned, the thing that caused his time to make some sense again. How cold, I didn't remember it like that, Issei said, his dark brown hair ruffled by the thin breeze. Hello, I made you wait a long time, didn't I? He said with some feigned sadness. He wasn't very keen on returning. No, I actually just arrived not long ago, but I'll collect an extra favor later, brat, he said. Okay, I understand, and where is it? The cave, said Issei, looking towards the distant white horizon, whose hills were hit by the waves of ice carried by the air. In response, that man simply pointed towards his feet. Issei scanned the ground and found a good spot. I see, if it's okay here, said Issei. He sat up and sawed his left fist. Quickly he crashed it against his right palm and hit it. A small crimson flash sprang out of nowhere like a lighter against stone to create sparks of fire. On his left palm a glove was sewn out of nowhere, a shiny crimson metal, like blood itself. Also protruding from its sides were some golden spikes that I don't know what they were for. Adorning the back of his left hand with the glove, a round gem of emerald shine crowned the bridge, in addition to a smaller one between the elbow. That guy's smile was no surprise. A fan of sacred gear? Objects created by God for men. Wouldn't he be happy to see one of the most powerful sacred gears in the world? Boosted gear, the left glove of the Red Dragon Emperor. Well, it will be fine here and I won't cause much damage, said Issei, calculating something. Then he turned to look at the man. You better back off, Azazel, said Issei to the man. Azazel, leader of Grigori, a tall man with black hair, with some strands dyed peroxide blonde, his smile framed by his ancient angel features and his bright purple eyes, which sparkle with infinite curiosity, listened to Issei and took a step back. Checking well, Issei prepared himself and unleashed a powerful blow at the point he had marked. The crimson blow shook the ice mountain, leaving a crack and a lot of cracks. In that the mountain roared and gave way. Both were standing in the middle of the destruction, until it gave way to their feet, giving way to a great fall. Both fell, but neither screamed, sure of what was going to happen. Azazel and Issei took flight into the air. Wheeled Azazel spread his 12 wings, black as the night itself, with feathers like a crow. Issei, on the other hand, spread his pair of dragon wings, wings of a deep red color, of great wingspan. They planned through the entrance of the cave. As they descended through the entrance funnel, the air became warmer and warmer, almost annoying, but they did not stop until they touched ground, landing on the rocky and dry surface of the ground, in contrast to the cold plains outside. Well, it's hot here, Issei said, looking around. It's normal, the surface isn't always everything. You always have to look at what's under your feet, said Azazel, beginning to study the naturally formed walls. How profound, where did you hear that? From Penemu, said Azazel. I don't know why I'm not surprised, said Issei. They noticed the light at the end of the tunnel timidly, so without a single trace of doubt but without the certainty of knowing where they were going, they both began to walk. Come on, Azazel, and thanks for telling me where this cave was, said Issei. Azazel just smiled, happy to be useful in something other than ruling his faction. Yeah, whatever. They both began to walk through the tunnels, tangled passages that formed a natural labyrinth, some leading to an incomplete end, others to sudden death. It doesn't look like they've explored this tunnel network, Issei said. It's true. Well, humans are very fragile creatures. It's normal that they don't dare to venture so far from the comforts they have built in their cities, said Azazel. Hey, you sound like you'll confirm that humans are weak, Issei said. Did I say weak? It's one thing to be weak and another to be fragile. To a certain extent I envy humans, said Azazel. And so? Well, there's the fact that you don't live forever, believe me. At this point any sane person would have lost their mind. It seems something bad. It is neither bad nor good. Life is life. It depends on how you want to live it. Unlike the angels with their purity or the demons and their system, the fallen angels are more, how to say it, free to do whatever they want. Yes and no. Issei sighed, seeing that even though he is considered a genius, he will never understand Azazel's twisted mind, so he decided to change the subject. How are Renair and Calawarner? Issei asked. Azazel pondered for a second, trying to remember the whereabouts of those two. Well, I guess, as always, arguing about everything. Although Renair wants to return, she is bored of being in Grigori, said Azazel. You should stop being so overprotective of her and Calawarner, otherwise they'll get angry. You don't understand, brat. At that moment, a powerful light filtered through the space. It was the same one they saw at the entrance, of course much more intense, and the internal temperature reached the point of being called hell on frozen earth. Both of them advanced a few more steps, until they found the entrance to an underground cavern. It rose above a deep pool of magma and molten rock, releasing smelly steam and smoke from a dead black man. Ash and lava frost flew freely through the air. Above the sustained magma were some large stone pillars that made a path to the center of the cavern. In the center was the treasure they were looking for. We found her, Issei said, full of melancholy and nostalgia. Surging through the steep and not at all easy path of boiling stone was a pillar larger than the others. Buried in the center rose the handle of a large sword. The imposing weapon had a shine on the handle of a bright gold color, enhanced by the scarlet of the environment and the heat of the cave, on the part of the sharp blade. It had a one-sided edge, typical of an Eastern sword, as well as having on the back a deep red color with details of scales on the blade. The edge was a silver color. Between the back and the edge of the blade some circles could be seen that adorned the sword. It was true, Azazel. He was here, Issei said. I told you. Issei just clicked his tongue and passed Azazel a bill. Okay, let's go, Issei said, preparing to jump, although when he took the first step he was stopped by Azazel, who grabbed him by the jacket. Wait a minute, you brat, you need to be more careful. And now why are you stopping me? Issei said to the man's figure. His poker face was funny. We don't know what might be on the other side, plus there's the simple fact that this entire cavern and tunnels are connected to each other. One false move and everything will fall on top of us, said Azazel. I already know that, don't worry, said Issei, breaking free from the fallen man's grip. Then he agilely jumped between rock and rock. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, wow. Azazel only covered his eyes as he watched the brown-haired boy almost fall to the bottom of the ravine. Issei quickly sat up on the rock and let out a breath, seeing that he was saved for now. Then he continued his way, until he reached the main rock, where he walked the short but exaggeratedly long path, ignoring the sheet and the infernal heat. Seriously, if he knew that he wasn't wearing a jacket. I would have preferred to be naked, said Issei, wiping the sweat from his forehead, but hey, here you are. Pretty, he said upon seeing the weapon. Well, ready, Drake? Here we go, he said, summoning the boosted gear and spitting on it to be ready, that and to annoy Drake. Hey, how disgusting. Come on, shut up, don't be a crybaby. It's still disgusting. Putting aside Drake's tantrum for spitting on him, metaphorically speaking, Issei approaches and grabs the handle of the sword, noticing at the same time the intense heat of this thing. Wow, that's hot, Issei said. Really? So the fact that it was literally buried in molten rock on top of a river of boiling magma didn't give you any idea that it was hot, said Drake. Are you still upset about the spit? Don't talk about that, you're the first Sekiryuutei to spit on me. Yes, and I hope I'm not the last. With that said, Issei takes it with both hands and begins to pull the handle of the sword. As he tried to extract it from the rock, the cavern began to react, launching bursts of magma from the river of lava and tremors throughout the cavern, rocks falling due to the movement hitting the edges of the base where Issei was standing. Azazel was clearly nervous, not only because they would be buried alive under rock and ice, but also because if they were not careful they would end up wiping out half the planet, which would be destroyed by the chain reaction of several explosions and volcanic eruptions. Beads of sweat rolled down his forehead and hair and dripped down his chin to his feet, which felt warm from the atmosphere. Come on, Issei said, applying more force. Below him and to the side of the sword, cracks began to form through which hot vapors leaked, although the sword slowly began to give way. This continued for a few minutes, until the sword finally gave way completely and was extracted from the rock. Due to this action, the cavern stopped shaking, the magma calmed down, and the vapor stopped being expelled like a pressure cooker. Issei sighed in relief as he held the weapon in his hands, confirming that it was intact. He smiled happily and jumped, wrapped in laughter, to the exit. Ha 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 ha, I did it. Look, Azazel, said Issei. Azazel just smiled and then hit him on the head with his closed fist. And why is that? You idiot, said Azazel, although he sighed later when he saw that everything was over. Okay, let's get out of here. It's scary here, he said, backing up. Issei looked back at the pit now in the process of extinguishing and then at the sword, noticing that it was shining with its own light. Yes, I have to go home, said Issei. So he began to follow the fallen man through the labyrinth of tunnels that was this place. By the way, I forgot to tell you, Issei, Azazel said, studying the walls. What's happening? Renair, it seems she wants to return to Ko after all this time. Believe me, she is ready, said Azazel. Really? Well, I didn't expect that from her. I think I said that I would be the one to call them, said Issei. Yes, but you know, that matter and this other thing, and speaking of crazy matters, didn't I tell you about the peace treaty? Peace treaty? Yes, do you know? The current Lucifer and the leader of heaven, Michael, and myself obviously, have raised during some private conversations that have not come to light, so prepare yourself well, shorty. Maybe Ko will shake a little, said Azazel upon seeing the young man. Will it be Japan? Who knows, maybe yes, maybe not. You really are a bit frustrating when you put your mind to it. It's a dwarf gift. Well, that's what you should know, said Azazel. Yes, and I assume she'll come too, right? Her? Of course, no leader is complete without his second in command. Besides, his beloved dragon boy toy is here, right? She'll be happy. Yeah, I guess, says Issei as they summarize, walking to the hole at the exit of the cave. Well, here we say goodbye, Azazel. Call me when you want to collect the favor, okay? Said Issei. He had kept his sword in a dimensional space of his own. After that he created a magic transportation circle and disappeared from Azazel's sight. The fallen man only sighed again to see the white horizon that stretches for thousands and thousands. How long, huh? He said, disappearing into his own transportation circle. Issei had appeared in the same place where he had transported himself the previous time. The barrier was still in place, and there seemed to be no signs of any curious people passing by. I'd better go home, Issei said, noticing the time on his phone. Damn, I have to be faster. Although while he was trying to leave that place, a strange noise reached his ears. Noticing again the absence of a large number of people, he simply sighed to take a step back and return to where the noise was. As he approached the other end of the alley, no man, the alley was that big, he didn't remember this shit like that. He noticed a rather large group of men, 5 in total. They were around 2 younger girls, something that Issei could have overlooked if it weren't for one thing. Nah, he's a gentleman, he won't let anything bad happen to anyone. I noticed the 2 girls. They were wearing the Ko Academy female uniform, their somewhat short skirts, and the rest of the outfit. They were against the wall of the place, and although they were holding a weapon like the wooden boo, I don't remember how to spell that XD, you could see the fear in their eyes. Come on, girls, let's play a little, said the leader of the group, somewhat tall and fat as well as being bad looking. The rest of the men just laughed at the comment. Hey, leave us alone, damn bastard, said one of the girls, one with somewhat dark brown hair and carrying the wooden weapon. Quickly and precisely she struck the leader of the gang, even though in a simple movement she took the wooden boo with her bare hand, to the surprise of the 2, who screamed when they saw that. Brat, I studied kendo in high school, he said, taking the boo and snatching it from the girl's hands. So this won't help you, he said, throwing the weapon aside and starting to walk towards them. No, please no, said the other one who had stayed behind her friend out of fear. We have nothing, and oh, but they do have something, a lot of clothes, said one of the henchmen with an unpleasant smile. Yes, lots of clothes. Although when the leader extended his hand towards the girls who screamed and hugged each other with their eyes closed, A brown blur passed in front of him, facing him seriously. "What? A brat?" said the leader of the group, somewhat surprised to see a child here. "Hey, Shorty, didn't they tell you that the primary school was on the other street?" shouted one of the henchmen, while the rest of the fools laughed like idiots. "Get out, brat, you're in the way. I don't think you should talk to a person like that, be more respectful. Besides, I doubt they want to be with you," Issei said without moving. "They don't know that," said one of them. "No, in fact everything is understood here, but well, let's save some problems and leave this alone." "Shut up, Shorty," said the leader, fed up with listening to the idiot who thinks he's a hero. He quickly cut his fist and threw it at the young man. Both girls closed their eyes waiting for a blow that never came. The noise made them open their eyes and what they saw didn't fit in their eyes. "Haven't they told you that it's rude to interrupt a person while they're speaking?" Issei said in a very casual way, with a cold tone and without any feeling in his voice. Issei was holding the boy's fist in his hand. Although it was smaller, not even all of the man's strength could move the boy. "But what? What are you?" "A gentleman," said Issei, quickly letting go of the thug's hand. Then he raised his leg and threw a kick that connected with the side of the guy's head. He didn't feel the blow until Issei sent him flying towards a garbage container at the other end of the alley. Who won't let a few simple pigs touch a lady like that? "What kind of dwarf are you?" said one of the followers of his leader who was kissing the trash. A 20 popped out of Issei's forehead at the comment. "I'm not a dwarf, I'm just shorter than the average for my age." The girl got angry. "What did you tell me?" "Bring the girl a skirt," said the guy going for Issei. Although just like his trash-loving supreme leader, this guy only felt gravity leave his body for a few seconds. Issei planted a punch loaded with his anger. He is short, he understands, but calling him a dwarf, he will kill them all. "I'm tired of you," he said in a voice from beyond the grave to the rest of the fools. They looked towards where their comrade had flown off like a missile, crashing headlong into a trash can. Then they looked at the boy again to notice his look full of rage. They tried to scream, but before the sound could leave either of their throats, they were lying unconscious on the ground. He let out a loud sigh when he saw that everyone was defeated. The truth is that this suited him well. "After all, you know, if I had a coin for every time someone called me a dwarf, I would have two, which isn't much, but it's funny that it happened twice." Then he turns around to see the two girls who were in his place, static with shock. "How are you? Those guys didn't do anything to you, right?" Issei said, looking at them. "We're fine," said one of the girls, one with pink hair, but that was incredible, it was so fast. First it was like paft, and then put, and then they flew through the air. "Yes, for a boy, you are very strong," said the other girl, the one with brown hair. "Well, let's say that," said Issei, bowing like a gentleman, with elegance and respect. "I am a gentleman who will always protect the integrity of such beautiful maidens," said Issei. "Now I really blew her out of the stadium." What I didn't notice was that for them, the figure of Issei in that form plus the recent events that had occurred, and if we add to that the fact of the boy's youthful and childish attractiveness, triggered in them reactions similar to the state of attraction towards a person of the opposite gender. Well, I read in a book on the floor that a knight should receive a reward for his services," said the one with pink hair. "Yes, that's true," said the other companion, somewhat calmer but just as red. "Huh? Reward? But the truth is I don't," he said before being silenced by a sudden brush between two pairs of lips against his cheeks. Both of them had given him a double kiss on each cheek. When she finished, the pink-haired girl was about to faint from the embarrassment of doing that, while the brown-haired girl just smiled somewhat gracefully. Issei ended up redder than a tomato. The embarrassment of being kissed by two very beautiful girls, older than him, is something he cannot digest easily. I mean, he is not used to a display of affection of this guy beyond that of his mother and older sister. After that, and after their color went down a bit, I know, they didn't go to a love hotel to buck, maybe in a future one shop they will. They left the alley dodging the bodies of the defeated gang members. Then they said goodbye, taking different paths. "Goodbye," Issei said. "Goodbye." "Goodbye, unknown hero," they both said in a funny tone that made Issei laugh, although when they blew him a kiss each one turned redder than a tomato. On the way home I was thinking about these experiences. Damn, they really go overboard. Those idiots, or the girls? All. After that, Issei had arrived at his home, his abode, the bear cave, and while many names that a home receives. My hut. After that he entered the hut where his mother was waiting for him. Hello Oka-san, I'm here, Issei said as he entered his home. Chapter 3. Did I enter Ko Academy? Hello Oka-san, I'm here, told the brunette entering her home, which she shared with her mother and younger brother. Dear Sarah, how was school? You're late, you know, said the mother of the two brunettes. Sorry, I was at my club discussing some things, said Sarah. Okay, it's good that you make good friends. Your brother arrived a few minutes ago. I'm worried that he's out so late. Hey Sarah, do you think Issei is on the wrong path? I couldn't stand to see my child become a thug, said the mother of both brothers, named Miki Hyoudou. Somewhere in the underworld. Ouch, Azazel said as he felt a stitch in his chest. Are you okay? Yes, I just felt like someone was cruelly defaming me. Why would that be? I don't know. I'm amazing and a great role model, Azazel said, pointing at himself. HMNP, remind me that you fell from heaven for being a liar. We are back. PFF, please Oka-san, it's Issei Oniai-chan. There's no way he'd hang out with the rabble, Sarah said dismissively. Yes, you're right, it must be my idea. It's just that you have grown so much in such a short time that I said Mickey. Oh no, Mom, don't start with your dramas. One day they are babies that you carry and breastfeed, and the next they are international businessmen who will lift their mother out of poverty, said Mickey with stars in his eyes and a dreamy smile. Oka-san, we don't live that badly. You say what you want, whatever. Sarah, please call your brother, and we're going to have dinner, Mickey said, returning to the kitchen. Okay, Sarah said, finally putting down her bag and proceeding to call her brother. Oniai-chan, have dinner and please, I hope you took a good bath, Sarah called from the living room. I'm coming, and I even took a bath. I'm just making sure. Issei Hyoudou was currently lying on his bed, staring at the void of his room's ceiling where he had a limited design Gundam journey through the memories of a recent past. So, a trick between the three great biblical ones, said the chestnut to himself. Noting to the other side, on the nightstand in the room, was the closest thing to a fair toy. It was a red plastic sphere with gold details. It was resting on a Kurama plush. It rolls for no reason on the nightstand when it reaches the edge of the table, revealing a toy dragon. You know, buddy? Even with your talent and level, you're still a kid. Why? Because I have the shape of a fair toy, said Drake, pointing out his somewhat strange appearance. Don't complain, I gave you a unique and very good ability. You also remind me of an old series that I noticed when I was a child. Well, more of a child, Issei said to Drake, a cheap fair toy version, as he calls him. What do you think of Azazel's words? From my point of view, I can see that it would be a very difficult project to carry out. All races hate each other, a hatred that has passed from generation to generation even after the fall of God and the first Mao. I never understood that part perfectly, since according to what you and Azazel say, the leaders of heaven and the underworld are not the originals, said Issei. Yes, just like Azazel, who was not originally the leader of the fallen. Well, it doesn't matter, said Issei. Oniai-chan, let's have dinner. I have heard his sister's voice from downstairs. Wow, she's already here. You're not going to do anything, buddy? She's a demon. She is my older sister. And I hope you took a bath. Issei sighed. I'm coming, and I took a bath. Just making sure, Oniai-chan baka. After that, Issei put on his slippers and opened the door to his room to leave. Drake's back now. Take your time, buddy, said the dragon when he saw that the boy closed the door. Noticing the dwarf's phone next to him, I guess watching some anime wouldn't be a bad idea. SBYX family is out. Issei felt that his lazy partner was rummaging through his phone again. I just hope he doesn't do anything stupid. Last time he almost recorded himself live. Issei walked down from his room to the kitchen on the ground floor. The Hyoudou family house was a modern-style house, 2 floors. On the first was the main entrance that led to the front yard, the living room, and the entrance to the kitchen, while on the second were the bedrooms and the bathroom, as well as some small stairs to an attic. When Issei went down the stairs and reached the kitchen, he saw his mother. I must say that despite being a single mother of 2 children, Mickey did not look older than her 30 years. With a beautiful model figure and a kind face, she was the typical housewife and working mother, curious fact. Although many men have been after her after the death of her only husband, she has remained reluctant to another relationship. She preferred to stay and take care of her children. "Hi baby, how did it go?" Mickey said as soon as she saw her son. She quickly gave him a kiss on the cheek and then hugged him tightly, the typical hug after a mother's death. "Yeah, Oka-san, it went well. You're suffocating me," said Issei between his mother's arms, who by the way was very strong, and her breasts. "And how did it go, Wani-chan?" Noticing Sarah watching that scene with sharp eyes while biting into a piece of toast. "What? Okay. How about we sit down and eat, so we can talk about our days too?" Mickey said, to which his children simply responded affirmatively. And so the night began at the Hyoudou house. The three of them enjoyed their mother's food while chatting about their respective days, Mickey at work, saying that her new clothing designs were a success and complaining that all the stupid guys she has as co-workers won't stop flirting with her. The latter did bother her son. Then it was the siblings' turn, Sarah saying that she's doing well just like that and Issei showing off the grades he's earned. "Not bad. My baby is very bright." "Sarah is like your brother," said Mickey. "Don't tell me that." After that discussion, everyone finished eating and picked up their plates, so while they were cleaning they continued on. "Your grades have been very average, young lady. That is not accepted in this house." "I'm doing well, Oka-san. You don't have to control me all the time." "Damn," Issei said, seeing that. Once the table duties were finished, the three of them said goodbye. Mickey gave his son another hug that already killed his daughter. "I hope to see better grades from you, Sarah." "I'm not a child, Oka-san." "Damn it," Issei said, already inside his room. "From here I could hear the screams, and look, I have no ears." "Don't say anything, Drake. Kisses, for all I care. Have you seen Marin Kitakawa yet?" "Guess what, new waifu? I'm a multi-waifu." "That's bad, friend Drake." After laughing about Drake being an otaku to the letter, the Sekiryuutei prepared to rest, although after getting comfortable and almost ready to go to sleep, his phone rings. To call? Who would call at this hour? "If it's for me, tell him I'm not here." "But no one calls you," Issei said with a fist-sized drop of sweat on his head. "Just in case." "Well," said Issei, picking up his phone and accepting the call. "It's from a stranger." "Hello? Forks? Wait, really? Wow, you got here too fast." "Yes, I understand. In that case I hope to see you tomorrow." "By Renair," said Issei, hanging up. "Renair has arrived. She's in the city. Armageddon has begun. It's the end of the world. Stop complaining, Dragon." Elsewhere. A girl picked up the cell phone, ending the call she had been waiting to make for quite some time. When she remembered his voice, her heart was beating like crazy in a marathon being chased by a tiger. Her cheeks turned red like a tomato, her smile flooded her caramel lips, and her eyes, purple like an amethyst, sparkled in the light of love and illusion. "See you tomorrow, Issei," said Renair before going to sleep. The next day. The sun rose again between the mountains on the horizon. Its rays flooded the city, confusing those who were asleep and dragging darkness into its hidden corners. The birds sang their song of hello to the day. The inhabitants woke up with the day to be able to continue with their lives, while others gave thanks at night and returned to their daytime activities. In a certain house of the Hyoudou family, the sun woke up on his face and then, "What? No, it can't be. Or maybe it wouldn't be so calm." "Sarah," Issei said, entering the bathroom suddenly, although what he saw left him surprised. Sarah was wearing her nightwear, a somewhat small nightgown that protected her body and breasts without a bra, as well as pink panties. Although what caught the child's attention the most was seeing her hair. Sarah had silky, light brown hair, inherited from her mother, although another thing she managed to inherit from her mother was the infernal battle against her hair in the morning. "It's you and me," Sarah said when she saw her hair and then the comb. "Don't look, Oni-chan, this is going to get ugly." "Okay," Issei said, leaving that room for the sake of his mental health. For an hour only sounds of blows and screams from Sarah were heard. "Thank goodness you were born a man," Drake said to his bearer. "It's not for anything, but," he said, looking at his hair, "he only needed a quick blow dry and that was it. Although you should change those spikes of yours, buddy, they went out of style years ago. Today's thing is hair down like BTS." You think? What do you say, Drake? Hey friend, it's the thing today, you know, always in fashion. Maybe I will. Your lack of fashion keeps me awake at night. After the hellish war against her hair, Sarah emerged from the bathroom looking her usual style. What do you think, brother? You should fix your tips, Issei said, pointing towards the tips. Damn. I would swear that the neighbors on the outskirts of the city heard that scream. After finally finishing getting ready, they went down to the first floor, where they found their mother cooking, under the same conditions as Sarah a few hours ago. Not a word, Mickey said to his children. Oka-san, I understand your pain, said Sarah with tears falling. Thank goodness I was born that way. After finally eating their breakfast, the brothers left the house to say goodbye to their mother, heading to their respective institutions. They arrived at the train station and said goodbye. Issei was what would be considered a genius, a brainiac good at studying, although he is also good at sports, gaining some popularity among girls of his age. Her school was on the other side of town, opposite the academy where Sarah studied. After class hours, math and English, and after being informed that the soccer team would be going to the inter-school qualifying match, Issei was gathering his things, his books and notebooks. Notebooks with trendy anime stickers, how clever you are. Someone knocks on the door. It was Issei's teacher, a traditional Japanese woman with straight black hair and black eyes, wearing a business suit somewhat tight to her normal-sized figure. Sensei? Hyoudou-kun, the principal is waiting for you, said the teacher from the entrance. Now what does that old man want, said Issei. Okay, thanks. After that they both walked towards the address. It seems they want to give you some news, said the teacher, looking for some conversation. You don't know what it will be exactly? Not really. Mr. Kitakawa is a very good person, but he knows how to keep secrets. After that the teacher left the young man in the office and returned to his classroom. Issei simply sighed, hoping that this was nothing bad. Okay, he is not a complete saint, since he has gotten into one or another problem. Let's see what it will be like, he said, entering the address after introducing himself. The office was a well-decorated room, although somewhat small to store all the files and books that had to be kept in the absence of a secretary's desk. Issei entered, noticing the piles of papers of each student, and then he saw the director in charge. The director, Kitakawa, an old but kind-looking man, whose professional history is impeccable and begins in the year 1568 BC, is how old the man with the round face and kind smile, pale blue eyes that reflect some of the wisdom acquired from scolding mistreated students since the era of punk and rock of the 80s, could look. Good morning, Mr. Kitakawa. Oh, hello, Issei, said the director with a relaxed and happy voice. I see you're not in your role as director, Issei said, a little more relaxed. Well, an old man can't spend his life feeling bitter, especially with the sound of an old friend and student, said Kitakawa, looking at a photo of the class from 20 years ago. Issei also followed him and noticed two people. One was his mother, unmistakable since his youth, and the other was. It is best not to think about the past, but remember that it is important, because we learn from it for the future, said Kitakawa. I see that you are still eating fortune cookies. Those Chinese knew what they were doing, Kitakawa said, laughing good-naturedly. But I didn't call you to talk about fortune cookies or 30 years ago. In fact, that's very good news for you. Well, here I am. Will you tell me what it is? Said Issei. He had leaned back on the director's chair with his arms open, his legs crossed and his attitude relaxed. Well, Issei, you know that I don't like to show favoritism to any student. They are all good to me. But in your case I have to do it. Sorry? Issei, I received a letter from the educational zone of the country. Your grades and qualifications are incredible, so much so that this small school can't hold you back any longer. So through me I have been entrusted to tell you that you have been promoted to the next grade. Congratulations, you will enter high school, said the director with great joy. Huh? It was all that came out of Issei's mouth. What do you mean, huh? The board of directors also thinks it's for the best. Your mind will develop faster in a more demanding territory. But I still have 2 years left, Issei said. These are bureaucratic problems. This country and the world need minds like yours to be working from a very early age in the development of humanity, and it is also something to celebrate. Well, if I look at it from that point of view, I think it's fine, although now that I think about it, I'll have to look for an academy, Issei said with one of his hands on his chin. Kitagawa had gotten up and started making coffee on his machine, which was sitting on top of a pile of papers stained with the dark brown liquid. Did I mention that Kitagawa is very laid back? Do you want coffee? No thanks, and you shouldn't have so much sugar. Nonsense, I have to die of something, I'll be a great-grandmother soon. Issei just sighed at the old man's twisted humor. Well, the truth is you don't have to worry about looking for an academy or a high school. They are the same. Of course not, but that's what they want you to believe, Shorty. If I had a coin for every time someone tells me that, I would have 3 coins. That means you're popular. Damn, I got off topic. The point is, before your father and grandfather perished, you enrolled in the prestigious co-academy named as the Young Ladies' Academy. But that's only for girls. Yes, but a long time ago it became mixed, said Kitagawa, downplaying it. The truth is, Issei, your grandfather, that crazy old man Jiraiya Hayata, had a wish that he entrusted me to tell you before he died. But my grandfather didn't. Shut up, what am I talking about? He had a dream, and it was that you, his only grandson, would have a harem, he said, dropping the bomb on the boy. Yes, I still remember it. The flashbacks are coming. This mother always made me laugh. XD. In a hospital, 2 men were gathered together, one of them seriously ill, the other standing next to his inseparable comrade. Do you remember the crazy times, Gojo? Younger Gojo Kitagawa answers his sick friend. Yes, we were serenading the same girl, the one who became your wife. We also got into a lot of trouble, although we already have children and grandchildren, said Jiraiya, who began to cough uncontrollably. I don't have much time left. Jiraiya. Come, my friend, he said, stretching out his bony and wrinkled skeleton hand that loves to touch breasts. I have to ask you for a favor, a last wish. Hey, is that okay? Yes, my grandson, Issei-chan. What's wrong with him? I want my wish to come true, the one that life didn't let me fulfill. Life or your wife? I agree with both of them. Okay, what will it be? Tell him that I want him to fulfill my wish, that I want him to have a very large harem, but extremely. Jiraiya, what a strong will. I will make sure your message gets through, Jiraiya. Jiraiya, and oh, Jiraiya, this world wasn't big enough for you. End of flashbacks. That made me laugh. XD. And that's how it was, Issei. That's the story, said the director, crying comically. Issei had a vein coming out of his forehead and a few drops of sweat. He didn't know whether to feel angry or sad for that not an all sad story. Hey Kitagawa, you know the old man is alive, right? He just got sick that time, the young man said through clenched teeth. The director had left his monologue and his speech after that. Yes, but it is not good to risk it. It is better this way. You're going to kill me. Whatever. I've already told your mother, she's happy, so for now, this is goodbye. After that, Kitagawa had arranged all the papers for Issei's promotion. A handshake later, Issei was in his classroom saying goodbye to his fellow promotion students. It should be noted that the girls cried like muffins upon learning that, and the boys praised Kami-sama and Buddha. At the end of the day, in school hours, Issei was at the school exit. The sun was in its last hours of life for that day, so the heat of midday would be replaced by the serene air of dusk soon. Thinking about all the information to process this day, Issei set off home through the busy streets of the city. First the war against my sister and mother's hair, then Drake's fashion advice, and now this. I'm going to go crazy. I'll end up brain roasted before Drake's curse does. Hey, I can't argue anything against that logic. On his way home, he crossed the same bridge he walked on every day. He decided to stay there for about 5 minutes while he thought about his future, his human future, and the one that worries him the most, his future as one of the many Sekiryuutei in history. It was no secret to him the fact of the curse that the god of the Bible placed on the boosted gear when Drake's soul was sealed. It included a life full of misfortune apart from a relatively short life expectation. Upon finding out about that, a resounding fear flooded his mind and body. Although the promise he made to himself helps him stay sane in the face of that incident, changing the history of the Red Welsh Dragon. At that, a familiar presence is felt throughout the space. Issei captures that presence and smiles as he turns to look towards one end of the bridge. There she was, standing, a beautiful young woman with jet black hair and a well-defined body under a uniform from an academy that he didn't recognize at first glance. "Hello, Renair," Issei said, greeting the aforementioned woman. Although he didn't receive any response from her at that moment, in fact Renair's gaze was crouched, her hair was covering her eyes and her legs seemed to be shaking. That worried Issei. He quickly approached the young woman, who became worse as he advanced. "Comrade, I recommend that you..." "King, is something wrong?" "Sekiryuutei, how are you?" said Renair, taking Issei by surprise. He is caught between the strong arms of the brunette, who hugs and buries the young man face first on her breasts while shaking him back and forth. "Get so close." "King, I can't breathe," Issei said with some difficulty, as he found himself trapped in that comforting, very comforting trap. "I'm glad you recognized me. I thought you had forgotten me," said Renair, challenging the young man on his chest and sticking cheek to cheek. "How could I forget you? Most of my ribs were broken because of you. At least you remember me." After Issei regained oxygen and confirmed that all his organs were in place and his ribs intact, they both set off for the train station. During the journey they talked about their experiences during the time they were apart. Issei had told him that since his days of adventure nothing interesting had happened, apart from his promotion to high school. "You got promoted?" "Great," Renair said, happy for him. "Yes, sure, and what about you?" "Me? Honestly, there's nothing interesting to tell. Grigori is very boring nowadays except for one idiot I rejected. The men of Grigori only think about hex and tits," said Renair, without mincing words. Issei just sighed at that. "That's better, those idiots only think about increasing their pride as men. It's for the best. You should find someone who truly values you. If someone says something to you or hurts you, just tell me and I'll beat them to death." Renair blushes and smiles at the young man's statement. "But what are you saying, Issei-kun? But the truth, I'm glad to see that you..." "What's wrong?" "Of course I'm worried, you're my friend." That left Renair stunned. "One day you will see me as a woman," he promised himself with tears of blood. "Is something wrong?" "No, nothing." After that, they arrived at the train station, the place of farewell. "Well, here we part ways," said Issei. "Yes, I'm in town. I'll see you tomorrow," Renair said quickly, leaning down and stealing a kiss on the cheek near the lip. Issei stood still while Renair laughed and ran away with a smile from ear to ear. "What's wrong?" he asked himself while touching his cheek. "Are you really asking yourself that?" Not quite. It was difficult to be a Sekiryuutei. While hundreds of ideas and memories flooded his mind, Issei was walking through the streets of the city that saw him grow up. When he came to a very old and special park for him, he decided to see the water fountain while placing his hand on item. So many things have happened in such a short time. In that moment, a disturbance manages to take him out of the frame for a few seconds. A feeling of discomfort runs through his body from end to end while the world around him freezes and changes. The air and time stop instantly as the young man gets used to the magic barrier above this area. I don't need to turn around to know that there was a person behind him. "Brat, you are Azazel's dog. I consider that more than enough reason to kill you," said the owner of that presence with the voice of an older man. "If I had a coin for every time someone calls me a dwarf, I'd have 4 coins. Do you understand that that puts me in a bad mood?" said Issei. He had begun to expel an intense crimson aura violently from his body. "Fallen traitor, you just dug your grave." Chapter 4. Let's make a deal. Rius Gry. The environment reddened by the barrier placed by the angel began to tremble slightly. The rainbow colors distorted as the burst of energy coming from the miner threatened to crush the fallen angel, who remained calm in his position. The power that Issei expelled could easily be balanced with that of a high-class devil, or an 8-winged angel. Even so, having read this child's report, he had to be careful. "What are you doing here, fallen angel?" Issei asked, trying to sound casual. "Wow, who would have thought? A pubescent dwarf who has stored up a great mass of energy is a reason to laugh," said the fallen angel, adjusting his high-brimmed hat. Issei studied the angel with his gaze. He was wearing a black trench coat that covered his entire body, as well as a high-brimmed hat that hid his black hair and slanted blue eyes, as well as a pair of black wings. You only have one pair of wings, you shouldn't mess with me. I heard they had a reputation for being charlatans, said Issei. Ha 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 ha, of course. I just need a pair of wings to find out, you filthy human, said the angel. I'll ask you once, and I hope your answer is satisfactory, or you'll have to return to Grigori with broken bones. Tell me, why did they rise up? What are you saying? I was just passing by, kid. You have a lot of imagination, said the man. Sure, Azazel warned me that a small but significant group of extremists rebelled from their ranks and stole some valuable information. Apart from that, they breached the laboratory's security and escaped following an extremist leader, said Issei. You know, Grigori are a bit loose-tongued and liars. I would never betray my race. I'm not a demon. If that's the case, and it's true that you have nothing to do with it, remove this barrier and end this. You're free to go, Issei said. And if not, what? Brat. I'll have to admit that you're following that bad-faced idiot, he said, cracking his fists. Ready, fallen angel? The fallen angel had begun to boil with rage at being called a liar, and the insult to his leader. Then he decides that the best thing to do is to finish him off quickly. Fine, if you want to die. I will give you that favor. This is for insulting my master, said the man, spreading his wings. In his hands, small particles of light began to form and condense, becoming a brilliant spear of light blue light. At a great speed, taking advantage of the surprise in the eyes of the miner, he launches his weapon of light, which quickly cuts the space between them and sticks into the chest of the young man. The dull sound of flesh being pierced, cut, and burned was heard everywhere as the boy spit out a large amount of blood from his lips. Issei tries to grab the spear of light, but it disappears in a wake that opens an even bigger wound and releases a huge jet of blood. Issei stares blankly at what falls to the ground in the crimson pool of his blood, which like a broken water fountain spreads all over the ground. HP man, that's what you get for being so loud, said the fallen angel, adjusting his gloves. Then he began to walk away, leaving the young man's dead body behind. He wasn't that big of a deal, just a charlatan. The master worried for nothing. So your master was worried about something? He heard a voice at his side. What? He said, looking in the direction of the sound to see Issei standing without a problem. He turns to see where the body was and notices that there was nothing. But how? Don't just trust what your eyes see. From time to time your eyes are deceived, Issei said, pointing to his eyes. The fallen angel doesn't waste time and creates distance between both opponents with the help of his wings. He quickly creates another spear of light and launches it again against his rival. Issei sighs as he sees another movement of the angel against him. Everything happened so fast that he couldn't remember it all in detail. In a second, the spear of light was going to pierce the boy again, but then his hand moved quickly and grabbed the tip of the spear a few centimeters from his neck. Before the incredulous gaze of the black-feathered angel, Issei stopped the deadly attack with his bare hand. I told you, said Issei, raising his power. A shadow flooded the park, stopping all traces of magic and cornering the fallen one who could barely breathe. To be careful, he finished his sentence, raising a cloud of dust. For a few seconds time ran slower around him. The impression was printed on his face and eyes. In addition to understanding why no one else had accepted this, he should have been smarter, but he understood that he could not ask for more. When he reacted, his opponent was in front of him. He had broken his spear and prepared his fist to hit him in the face, which reset his brain. The force was such that he sent him straight to the ground, crashing into a pile of trees before reaching the hard grass where his spine felt the blow. Damn it, he cursed under his breath at his stupidity and the brat who had hit him. He spits out some blood and takes flight again. But when he reaches his landing point, the boy was no longer there. What? Where are you looking? I'm here, Issei said. The fallen one looks up and sees Issei flying over the area with a pair of dragon wings. I'm sure you want to continue, right? I mean, I just gave you the beating of your life. Brat. Quickly, the fallen angel takes flight and gains speed through maneuvers to launch himself like a kamikaze towards his rival, although Issei remains calm. Not bad. Issei quickly takes place as his opponent tries to hit him with a punch that he deflects without a problem. Taking advantage of that position, Issei throws a knee that hits him in the chest to turn and hit him with his heel on the back, causing him to descend a few meters. Let's do something. I propose a deal, said Issei. What? He said, barely recovering from the blow. I won't use my hands, and you have permission to attack with all your power. Hey, don't call your lucky break skill, I'll finish you off, brat. Yeah, whatever you say, tough boy, fine. Do we have a deal? Don't regret it later, shorty. As if you were something to worry about. Angel doesn't take this last thing well, so he forms 2 spears of light, one in each hand, and throws them towards the young man. Issei spread his wings and using simple maneuvers dodged the spears which destroyed the ground beneath them. I hope they don't charge me for the damages, Issei said. Don't get distracted. The fallen angel threw a punch that Issei stopped with his hand without even turning to look. I don't think I have to worry, Issei said, looking at his rival. The fallen angel becomes enraged and decides to finish off the dwarf. He frees himself from his grip and launches a series of blows that Issei dodges without any problem. Are you tired already? Are you going to tell me why you are here? Issei said. Be still and die, said the angel. Issei continued dodging and blocking until he managed to open a space. He quickly kicks the angel in the ribs, sending him to the ground, breaking the tile and opening a crater, and he descends until he is in front of the bruised angel. I'm still waiting for your reply. HGT man, that hurt. Is that all you have to tell me? In that he notices something that Issei apparently doesn't know, but if I'm going to tell you something, watch your back. What? Hell. The sound of a cut and a flash of yellow light could be heard on the field. Issei had landed on the other side. While a trickle of blood ran down his back and arm, he had an open wound that reached from his shoulder to his lower area. TCHS, hey traitor, that's playing dirty, Issei said. The damn cut hurt a lot. In front of the Sekiryuutei stood a little girl. She looked like a gothic loli with her lace dress and her sadistic smile, and she also had a spear of light in her hands which smoked as it dissolved the blood of a mortal. Damn, light is poison to humans. Hey, Danashik, when you told me we had a clean-up mission, I didn't expect to kill a child, and seeing how he left you, I must say that I feel sorry for you, said the girl. The one now known as Danashik stood up and took his hat. Don't talk nonsense. That dwarf is the Sekiryuutei, besides being very strong. What? Him, the Welsh dragon? He said, looking at Issei from top to bottom. I find it hard to believe you, Danashik, but I will say that he is very adorable. I bet he is still a virgin. Who knows? Hey, wouldn't you like to go play with me? Open candy and video games. That sounds like something a crazy child rapist would say, Issei said. Why, that is what it is, Danashik said. Hey, don't say that, he said, throwing a tantrum. Well, it doesn't matter, all we have to do is destroy it. But then another crushing pressure interrupts the park, scaring both fallen angels and surprising the young man in question. What's that? A magic circle of bright crimson color appeared in the middle of the battlefield. The tongues of power and the crimson flame of fire raised several trees and rocks in their path. In front of the fallen angels was a beautiful woman, with equally beautiful crimson red hair, stronger than the strawberry blonde, stronger. Like a river of blood running down her back, a body of envy passes anyone, and a sky blue gaze darkened by her rage. Red hair, a member of the Gremry clan, to which he belongs. Perfect, the master will be very happy, said the blonde, looking at the newcomer. I don't confess to you, that's a bad habit of yours. She's not just any demon from a noble house, she's one who has stood out among her own members, said Danashik, adjusting his hat and trench coat. Rius Gry. A man familiar with the Mao Lucifer, Rius Gry. That's what Drake told me, but what are you doing here? Well, he said in a cold and dull voice, repudiating his rivals and marking his anger prominently. Dirty crows treading on my lands. Both crows only became more scared. Issei, on the other hand, couldn't take his eyes off her. She was strong, he couldn't deny it. In fact, he would even say that she is dangerous. But it didn't take away from her beauty, hair, and exotic nature. A flash of pain brings him out of his thoughts as he holds his injured arm, breathing somewhat heavily. Light was always a weak point for him. Taking a few steps back, he put some distance between both parties and him. Partner, I know you told me I shouldn't interrupt, but it would be best to get out of here. Think of a strategic retreat, said Drake to his bearer. We can't, Drake, not yet. Damn, what's taking so long? Said Issei. Rius looked sideways at the boy behind her. She noticed the resemblance to Sarah, but also that which made him different from the rest of the people, a kind of attractive and terrifying aura that enveloped the boy like a dark and invisible cloak, although she got very angry when she saw the ugly wound that ran along his back. Attacking an innocent in this city, are you aware that this could trigger a war? Rius said to both angels. Which? They looked at each other for a few seconds and then burst out laughing. Ha 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 ha. That? Forget it, they won't listen to you, Issei said behind Rius. It's what they want, and you meddling will only lead us to a war. Why are you telling me that? And how do you know? Rius said. Well, let's just say I'm very observant, princess. That did surprise Rius. Surprised? I didn't expect that. Well, I know my sister is part of your family, so for my part one guarantee your safety. But not theirs, said Issei, looking at his rivals. If it seems better to you, we should make a deal. Hey Danashik, shouldn't we finish them off already? Said the blonde. Wait, let's see what they have to say. You've been talking too much and in a very haughty manner. You don't know who I am, or them, and I don't know what you're talking about, said Rius, looking at the little one. You should know your place. Issei smiled at that. Now you just confirmed it to me, princess. No one in this country would speak like that. Only a princess from another country or another race. But how? That's no problem now. Listen, those guys want us both dead, so I propose to have a drink with you for both of our benefits, Issei said, standing up. Who? Did I tell you that you talk a lot? And why would you trust a devil like me? Rius said, looking closely at the young man and the guts he had. Instinct, and an old saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, said Issei. Besides, I will meet you later, to discuss some matters. Rius glanced at both angels who had their spears ready, then looked at the boy behind her. She doesn't even know exactly why she would do this. In other days she would have finished them off by herself, but today. Okay, I'll trust you, we have a deal, said Rius, going to see both angels. I'll see you at the Occult Club, at Co Academy. Co Academy, does it have something to do with it? I don't think so, said Issei. Understood. Damn Danashik, I told you we should have finished them off already, said the blonde lowly. Be still. You and your damn idea of gossip. Rius had surrounded herself with the crimson aura belonging to the Gry family, the same aura inherited from her mother. The power of destruction. Forming a sphere with that power, Rius launches a notable attack that both failed, barely managed to dodge. The explosion shook the ground, in which a cloud of smoke rises. Both fallen, surprised by Rius's power, did not notice the absence of someone. Issei was behind Danashik and gives him a blow that sends him back to the ground. The blonde, noticing the brown-haired man, creates a spear of light quickly. The deadly flash of sparks flies towards Issei, who manages to dodge by very little because of his previous wound, from which he still carries the pain. The blonde, noticing that the brown-haired man is still resentful of her previous blows, smiled and began to launch her light attacks everywhere, trying to damage the Sekiryuutei, who dodged the blonde's blows as best he could. In that, Rius intervenes again, this time launching several spheres of energy crimson. The blonde notices that, and forming several spears of light, counteracts most of his attacks, which Issei takes advantage of to get out of his way without noticing the fallen hat, who tries to impale Issei from his back. Even so, the young man reacts in time and summons his sword, which, still in its dragon-tail design sheath, blocks the blow of the spear of light. In a struggle between both parties, Issei for his part tries to get rid of the fallen one, although the wound on his arm costs him dearly and he loses in the struggle. In that, Danashik sends a prick with his spear which hits Issei's open wound, causing more blood to flow, and Issei to scream in pain. Ah! The fallen angel takes advantage of this to strike Issei in the ribs, further affecting his wound. This is because of the previous situation. Dwarf a blow that sends him crashing into the ground, creating a small crater with Issei in the center. Danashik lands in front of the young man, who is barely staying awake. His vision is somewhat blurry. I thought you would be a bigger challenge, but I see that you are just a child. Whatever. Last words, said Danashik, adjusting his hat, while he creates another spear of light and points it at Issei. Well done, let's get it over with, Danashik said, the blonde, looking at the scene. Rius, on the other hand, seemed worried. She had to save the child. I should never have let you, he said with a threat of sadness in his voice. What's wrong? Don't tell me you're worried about the Sekiryuutei. Well, to each of his own. Rius turns red at that. Hey. Issei simply smiles under his breath. Tell me, why did you decide to reveal yourself? What did Azazel and the others do to you? Well, since you're going to die, I suppose I can tell you, so you won't have any regrets and you'll go to the grave happy. It's very simple. Our master wishes to re-establish the holy war, thus, we, the fallen angels, will demonstrate our superiority to the other races, said the fallen one with madness in his being. I don't expect you to understand, child, but the idea of war puts me in a very good mood. I understand, said Issei, slowly closing his eyes. Thank you, said Issei, opening his eyes suddenly while smiling widely. He stands up with a jump, leaning on his arms at the fallen man's doubtful face. What the hell are you? Said Danashik. Let me tell you, said Issei. The back of his left hand shines an intense emerald green as trails of power of the same color frow the space. In space, a mystical object weaves its presence before the eyes of the black-feathered angel, who witnesses firsthand how a metal object covers the entire hand of the miner. From it 5 red-hot claws emerge on Issei's fingers as the structure takes over more of the young man's arm, reaching the elbow of the arm, and a green gem sprouts from the crimson iron helmet at the same time as 2 spikes on each side of the glove become present. But what is that? Said Danashik. It can't be, said her companion. Wow, I was right, very right, Rius said, looking at the flash of light. My name is Hyoudou Issei, current Sekiryuutei, Welsh dragon, and I sentence you, fallen traitor Danashik, to death, said Issei, showing his red glove, the left arm of the red dragon emperor. I quickly create a magic circle under the chestnut's feet. From this flames emerged like a pit and envelop the young man, who was swallowed by the fire. In the middle of the flames the figure of Issei is distinguished so that they disappear, leaving only the incandescent aura around the young man, his eyes obtaining a reddish hue. At the same time that a mark is sewn over his left eye, crossing it until reaching above the eyelid, as if it were fire itself marked on his face. Danashik was speechless like the rest. The heat and power of the fire made the battlefield a hell on earth, yet he smiled resignedly. How incredible to face you with all your power, Sekiryuutei, said Danashik, expelling his own light blue aura. Okay, Issei said, adopting a battle stance. This stance was high, with his leg bent forward and the other supported backwards with all his weight. Ah! The heat beneath his feet caused the ground to melt. Taking a step back, a powerful explosion was felt on the field as Issei took a step forward. When Danashik saw him, he was at his side. He had traveled a great distance in one sitting. He then gave him a blow with his left hand that sent Danashik flying to the other end of the field. Danashik, said the blonde upon seeing that blow. Well, I see that the Sekiryuutei can take care of itself, said Rius, hiding her surprise under her smile. You haven't told me your name, fallen one. I am Rius Gry, heir to the throne of my clan, said Rius, wrapping herself in her crimson aura, raising a cloud of dust and air that revealed part of her panties. I want to know your name. Why are you going to die? Ha 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 ha. Yes, of course, call me Milta, said the now known Milta, creating a spear of light between her hands. Ready to die, girl? Rius just smiled. Danashik rose from the ground and took flight, taking advantage of the smoke screen that rose. Once in the air, he accumulated all his power to create 5 large spears of light, which he threw at the boy. Issei jumped into the smoke trying to find Danashik, although upon seeing the fallen man's sudden attack he only clicked his tongue as his eyes glowed a deep red. Time began to run slower. Therefore the spears of light moved at the speed necessary for Issei to be able to see them. Moving his accelerated vision, he knew how to evade each one of them. First, the one on the left. A 6th spear of light had been directed towards the brown-haired man from the left side. Raising his glove, Issei blocks the weapon and kicks it to destroy it, then takes the handle of his sword and removes the sheath, leaving the blade free. With a few quick movements, Issei destroys all the spears that Danashik had sent him as he continues on his way. Witnessing this, Danashik creates a large spear of light and in a quick movement blocks the thrust that came directly to his body, struggling with Issei until he manages to make him step back and step on the ground. Already on the ground, Danashik creates a burst of spears of light that Issei blocks with his sword as he runs towards his opponent, who is waiting for him ready to fight. Waving the spear and launching a blow accompanied by a war cry, Issei blocks the blow with his sword and launches his own blow, both engaging in a battle of weapons. Milta launches her light attack at Rius, which simply creates a shield of magic. Both forces are destroyed in the middle when Rius launches a large sphere of the power of destruction. Milta takes flight, dodging Rius's attack, in which she turns and launches an attack of light. Rius simply snaps her fingers, in which a blast of her crimson aura is shot towards the spear, destroying it on the spot. Then she launches another large blast of the power of destruction, which Milta dodges by very little, crashing into a tree that begins to slowly destroy due to its power. "This is scary," he says as he dodges another blast of the power of destruction, and starts running and flying. "This is not fun." Rius smiles as she watches the cat and mouse game. Although remembering the spears of light makes her serious, she doesn't want to be pierced by that. Returning to the battle between Issei and Danashik, Issei launches a thrust that Danashik blocks with his long weapon. Even so, Issei takes advantage of the closeness, and launches a blow that Danashik resents in his body. He launches his attack, which Issei blocks with his weapon. Danashik launches a kick that sends Issei to the sky as the fallen man waves his arm, and creates a large combination of spears of light which travels towards Issei. Fireball. Issei takes a big breath of air and shoots a large flame. The huge fireball crashes into the spears, engulfing the attack and exploding. Danashik covers his eyes due to the explosion and the smoke. When he manages to regain his sight, he sees how the smoke is split into two due to a large fireball that travels towards him. Smaller ones follow it. In that, Danashik decides that the best thing is to opt for defense. He accumulates all his magic in his wings and launches a flutter that creates a small gale, trying to dissipate the flames. Even so, he had to cover himself with his wings and arms since the heat was scorching, causing him some burns. The fireballs exploded, raising flames like erupting volcanoes. Even with all these years, I am not able to write without exaggerating. It's not my fault. Look at the manga and light novels. When Issei landed, the smoke dissipated, revealing Danashik with some burns. Danashik takes height and creates a horde of spears of light which Issei dodges while creating some distance between them. The explosions create craters and raise large pieces of earth. Issei uses his enhanced sight again and dodges a rock that was coming towards him. He jumps on a small stone, in which he gains momentum and spreads his dragon wings. Milta kept running away from the explosions generated by Rius. "Ayud. Stop moving," Rius said, launching another blast of the power of destruction. Multiple spheres travel towards Milta, who narrowly dodges them. "Hey, you want to kill me?" said Milta. Rius looks at her with a drop of sweat on her head. "I thought that was clear." "Oh, that's right," said Milta. She creates a spear of light and throws it at Rius. She creates a magic shield that rejects the spear, and they are destroyed. Rius uses her magic again and creates several magic circles around the lowly, which are charged with the power of destruction. She quickly takes height, avoiding the bursts of power of destruction which create more destruction and raise more smoke. Milta clicks her tongue and launches two light attacks at the same time. Rius creates an energy dome to protect herself from the impact. After that, she creates several magic circles again and charges them with the crimson aura. Milta, on the other hand, raises her golden aura and creates several spears of light. Both fire their attacks at the same time. The spears of light and the attacks of destruction collide in the middle, raising even more smoke. Issei throws another stab that Danashik manages to block and launches an attack that Issei stops. Then he tries to throw a punch, but Issei blocks it with the palm of his hand. That always happens," Issei said, withdrawing Danashik's attack. "It's normal, you're exhausted." Danashik was surprised by that. It was true, his body was worn out, but looking at the Sekiryuutei, he was as if nothing had happened. "That's impossible," Danashik said. "I'm not going to let you. I told you to defeat you, to put you on the ground. I guess that hurts you. Well, it's the truth. And all thanks to this," said Issei, showing his glove, "an object capable of multiplying my base power to infinity. Compared to your energy that is always running out, isn't it strange that I defeat you?" "Stop talking nonsense," said Danashik, throwing a punch which Issei doesn't bother to dodge or block, as he remains suspended in the air a few centimeters from his face. "What? I told you. I refuse to accept that." Issei had landed a blow to his abdomen, causing Danashik to spit out some blood. "It wasn't a simple blow enhanced with magic. He just destroyed parts of my internal magic circles. This dwarf is capable of erasing magic, but how?" A kick from the brown-haired boy sends Danashik crashing into a tree. Issei follows him and gives him another kick that continues pushing him into the forest, destroying trees and rocks in his path. Milta fires another spear of light which Rius blocks again, then notices her friend's situation. "Damn, this got complicated for us," he said under his breath. "How much do you talk?" "You're so ugly," he said, launching another attack that Rius blocked again, although she saw him shoot another spear of light towards the forest. "That?" Issei notices the attack and jumps to the side, avoiding the blow, which Danashik takes advantage of to retreat. Milta also regrouped with her partner. "We must retire for now," said Danashik, adjusting his hat. "Yes, the Princess of the Crimson Ruin is strong," said Milta. Both of them take flight at high speed. "Hey, don't think you won, this is just a strategic retreat. Next time we will win, and I will definitely grape you, kid." "I don't think it's necessary. Unlike them, a death on our part would mean nothing," said Danashik. "Huh! Don't say that." Issei watched alongside Rius as both fallen angels tore down the barrier and took flight. A glow distracted both of them. This was a transportation magic circle belonging to a demon clan. "Oh, they took too long," Rius said, recognizing the circle as her own. From this emerged a light, which when it dissipated was noticed by the entire occult club. Era, Bucho, didn't you tell me that you were in a bad mood?" said Akino, seeing the mess. "Well, you see," said Rius, turning to where Issei was, although he had disappeared. "Bucho?" Rius then sighed. "Well, it doesn't matter, we have to be alert. There are fallen angels causing trouble, you know how they get." "Yes, Bucho," they all said. Rius walked to stand next to her queen. "We'll talk later." Akino the Miko just nodded. Bucho said, "There are fallen angels causing disaster, right?" Sarah asked her king. "Yes, with that." "They won't be after my Oniai-chan?" said Sarah. Why behind your brother?" "Well, Issei has been arriving late every day and it's a little strange," Sarah said. "Sarah-senpai, at that age it's normal to have a girlfriend," Kaneko said randomly. "Huh! That's not it, Kaneko-chan," Sarah said. "Sarah-senpai is the typical overprotective one-chan," said Kaneko. "Kaneko-chan," said Sarah, her face bright red, to the laughter of the others. "I don't think that he is the target, still we have to be alert. Who knows, maybe he also has an interesting sacred gear," Rius said to Sarah. Although with that lie Rius thought about what the boy who promised to see her tomorrow would have to tell her. "This is interesting." Issei appeared in his room through a transportation circle. The first thing he did as soon as he touched the ground was to take off his torn school jacket, then his shirt in the same condition, leaving his torso bare. Noticing the ugly mark that Milta left on his back, it went from the upper shoulder area to the lower back. I sigh as I see that even with his problems, he was able to get what he wanted, so at the end of the day it was worth it. I take his phone and search through the contacts, then I dial the number. I wait for it to stop ringing until I finally answer. "Hello, Azazel. You were right, we have renegade fallen lurking around the city. If I got hold of two, huh? Well, I had some help, never mind. I'll keep you informed," by Azazel, said Issei. He looked back at the mirror, noticing how the wound was slowly disappearing, although it would take some time for his regeneration to heal it completely. "Damn, I know it won't leave a mark," but Issei said, sighing. This day had gone beyond weird. Now he had to rest for tomorrow. So without further ado he took his things and prepared to get ready for sleep. The next day. Although waking up was like any other day, the truth is that he was nervous since his alarm clock rang. Now the Hyoudou brothers were walking through the streets of Ko, each one lost in their own thoughts. I mean, Issei wasn't a nervous kid, it's just that this was so sudden that he didn't get used to being the youngest in the entire academy he attended. So while Issei was racking his brains thinking, Sarah was laughing at him for his expression. Although in the chestnut's mind this would make his days more interesting, he doesn't know to what level. Arriving at the academy, both brothers entered the establishment. They immediately became the focus of attention of all the students. The first was somewhat used to it, not to say that she felt flattered to be observed by everyone with admiration, although her brother was never that type of person. So that caused her a slight dizziness due to nerves. Although as soon as he stepped onto the academy floor, Issei felt two glances at him, each in a different direction. He turned to his left and came across an old, very old building. Due to its structure, one should assume that it was the old headquarters of the academy before the renovation. Even so, he recognized the crimson hair and the sky-blue eyes. Redder than strawberry blonde like blood. That? Nothing. He focused again on the other gaze. There was a person looking out from one of the large windows of the new building. He recognized the academy uniform. It was a tall and beautiful woman, with jet black hair, amethyst eyes highlighted under rimmed glasses, a serious look and a body well. That one is flat, said Issei. Don't be picky, not all of them are dairy cows like you like. From time to time I think that having a dragon in my head listening to my thoughts is not cool. Hey, I'm so cool. She is Sekiryuutei, Sarah said when she saw Issei looking at the student council building. I recommend you be careful if it's her. She is known as the Iron President. You don't want to know why. Do you know? There are a lot of rumors circulating, whatever. Come on, I'll show you the room they assigned to you, said Sarah, walking directly towards the building. Issei looked back at the old building, but the crimson-haired beauty had retreated from the window, sighing to follow her sister. Come on. I'm coming. They both walked in, noticing the new building, on the way to their classroom. Sarah gave him a little tour of the hallways to keep him from getting lost. At that, they finally arrived at Issei's living room. Hey, I think a classmate of mine from the club studies in this room. Anyway, introduce yourself to her later. Good luck, Oniai-chan, said Sarah, saying goodbye to him. Issei watched her walk away as he sighed to calm his nerves a bit. Okay, here we go. Cheer up, it could go wrong. Many things. Party pooper. Issei, ignoring that last thing, knocked on the living room door and waited a while. When he heard footsteps approaching the door, he got nervous again. At that point, a teacher opens up and notices the young man, somewhat smaller and more childish than the others she is used to seeing. Can I help you, young man? He said, noticing the academy uniform. Yes, I am Issei, Hyoudou Issei, the new student. They told me that this was my classroom. Are you the new one? Okay, wait a few seconds and I'll introduce you to the others, said the purple-haired teacher. Okay, thanks. By the way, you have a very marked child's face. Well, that's it. It doesn't matter, wait, I'll let you know, he said, closing the door. Because I'm a 13-year-old boy, thank you. Alright, still you bunch of delays. What a character. We have a new student, so behave yourselves, and whoever calls you a baby face, I'll kick your ass. Silence was enough of an answer. Good luck, I hope I don't see you here soon. What morals? The teacher shouted from inside. Very well, go ahead, son. The entire classroom, who had previously been silent, was extremely surprised to see Issei standing there. Rumors had circulated about a new student entering the classroom, whose abilities and intellect had made him skip almost 2 years of enrollment, but they never expected to see that. Hello, nice to meet you, and my name is Hyoudou Issei. Nice to meet you. I am in your care, said Issei with extreme nervousness, a red in his face that looked like a fire alarm bulb and a somewhat clumsy bow. Earth swallow me. The earth swallows you, but only in Norway. Why would that be? The girls quickly found him to be a very adorable boy, almost alarming to the most sadistic ones. Yes, the dream of being in one Isama dominating a shota to make him hers was common in this country. Deny it. To men, well, he seemed like Kibayudo 2.0, you'll know who he is and why. The uproar arose from both groups, some screaming louder than others and others not suitable for everyone. Shut up, you bunch of misfits. What kind of school did I get into? Where if these chicks don't eat you, your teacher will kill you. Drag, shut up. The young Hyoudou Issei passed his math, physics, chemistry and even foreign language exams with good grades, the best of the entire school where they were taken. I hope you improve and learn from him, said the teacher. Which caused even more noise. If so, NASA should go. Ha 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 ha. Silence, I said. Alright, according to the rules I have to go through a series of questions from you to get familiar with your new partner. I don't know how the hell that helps, but I get paid for keeping to a schedule, not for questioning the system, so go ahead. Who wants to ask the first question? Seeing that everyone raised their hands, it made Issei and the teacher have a drop of sweat on their faces. Okay, you first, pretty girl. Yes, how old are you? Asked one of the girls. I am 13 years old. Oh, really? Yeah. Incredible. Next up, are you really a genius? Another of the girls asked. Well, I wouldn't say genius. I just try hard and I plan to keep improving, said Issei, somewhat embarrassed, which aroused more interest in all the young ladies. Okay. Any of the boys want to ask something? Said the teacher. What is your relationship with Hyoudou-senpai? Asked one of the men. No personal things outside the institution. Yes, she is my older sister. Hyoudou Sarah, Hyoudou Issei. That did spark a commotion in the entire room. Great, we'll be seeing more of Hyoudou-senpai. Sarah Wani-sama will visit us more often. I'll make that dwarf a nephew. Quiet, well, we're done. Sit down, Hyoudou-kun, there's an empty seat in front of us, said the teacher. Issei's face remained flat as he looked around the room until he noticed another empty seat. Excuse me, can I sit back there? Forward. Thank you, said Issei. He headed towards his post, dodging some paper balls and a leg on the way in pure Ultra Instinct style. Arriving at her destination, a desk that was behind a girl who was somewhat flat for her age with bright white hair and beautiful hazel yellow eyes. As they exchanged glances, they both felt the apparent clip. Well, actually Issei felt the pulse of energy that she felt out of instinct, as he was the one who provoked it with his dragon aura. Hello, said the young Hyoudou, to which the girl responded with a somewhat dry and cold hello, and turned her face away so that no one would notice that she was a little red because of how cute the boy was. My God, they are degenerates in Japan. After that, the classes continued without any setbacks. The teacher and the girls were impressed by Issei's abilities in his studies, while the boys simply cursed the day he was born and why he was so smart. After that, lunch followed, where he met more of his female companions since the men did not want to continue talking to him. It's normal, remember that weak males reject strong males for females. Still, it's hard not to eat with anyone. After that, and Issei continuing to answer those somewhat uncomfortable questions, the moment of truth arrived. Classes had ended somewhat early, so several young people continued on their way home, surely to watch a movie or play Xbox. Then Issei continued along a small path surrounded by trees towards the old building, which emanated a somewhat frightening aura, but attractive to the bravest, and Issei was among that list. The truth is that his sister had asked him to go to the old building to show her something surprising, but he already had an inkling of what it would be. Sarah, how am I going to tell you everything? I don't even believe it myself from time to time, said Issei. Sarah had called him, because they would surely want to recruit him as a servant of the demon in charge, something that will not happen for the moment due to some terms and problems that he had. Still, he decided to play along with his sister, since Rius Gry knew she would come to see him. He arrived at the new building and found no one there. Somewhat surprised, he arrived and opened the main entrance, which was unlocked. Hello, receiving no reply, he decided to do the most sensitive thing, moving forward following the presences that were on the second floor. What a great genius idea. Do you have a better one? No. Okay. He reached the stairs to the second floor and went up. On the way he noticed a strange door. It seemed sealed. It is surely a deadly weapon or a very strong servant. You're watching too many movies. He continued his way to the second floor, where he noticed Rius waiting for him. Didn't your parents teach you not to lurk in other people's houses? Said the demon mockingly. Well, they should put someone at the entrance, said Issei. Hello, it's good to see you safe and sound again, said Issei as he was left dumbfounded. Simply, the word beautiful did not fit in her. She was not able to do her justice. Rius was beautiful. She even thought seriously about the proposal that Drag made her a long time ago. Dragons take what we want when we want and how we want. We do not kneel before anything or anyone. I swallowed to be able to continue speaking. Well, you're right about that, so I forgive you, but in return, I want to please. Okay, but we better discuss them later, said Issei. I need to talk to you, as I promised you yesterday. Rius was sparked with curiosity. She really wanted to get to know this particular boy better, who was standing out among everyone else. Okay, go ahead and come in. First you, beautiful lady. Now, how chivalrous. They both entered, in which Rius sat on her desk with her sensual legs crossed, giving a show that was very well seen by the young man. Issei swallowed again because of that. Where is my sister? Sarah? In a contract, said Rius. You know what it is, right? Yes, I know more or less what it is. Well, the moment he said that, a door opened on the other side of the room, and a beautiful woman of the same age as Rius, with dark blue, almost black hair, entered with a tray of tea and cookies. Hey! Relax, this is Himejima Akino. She is your senpai, as well as being the Fukubucho of the club and my queen, the most trusted piece of my entourage, said Rius. You know it's an entourage, right? Yes, I know what it is, said Issei. I apologize for my reaction, Himejima senpai. I am Hyoudou Issei. Era, don't worry, this must be hard for you, said Akino with a hand on her cheek. I guess, said Issei. Then I noticed some pieces on the table. Are those? Yes, the way pure devils like me obtain pieces of our entourage. Evil pieces are known as them, said Rius. If you are interested, I can help you understand them better, said the Crimson Demon with a smile. Straight to the point, huh? Issei said. The truth is, I'm not interested in being a devil these days. Sorry, Issei said. The last thing with some sadness when he saw Rius' expression. Well, but why not? Let's say I have some problems and I can't do it at the moment. But I wanted to. What's wrong with your sister? She's a demon. I know, and I'm glad you're taking care of me, but in my case it's a little different. And so? I can't tell you now. Don't worry, I know that with time you will do it. Maybe what I can give you is a contract, Issei said, awakening Rius' curiosity. Really? Said the demon, standing up. Tell me, what will you give me in exchange for this contract? It must be something of value. Issei also stood up upon seeing the crimson-red circle beneath Rius' feet. If your queen allows me, I would like to give you something of equal value. Go ahead, Akino said. Thank you, said Issei, and that is my complete devotion to you, my trust and loyalty. You have my sister. Well, I'm glad, but I wish to take care of her, so, in exchange for that, I ask that I can be in the club with you. Rius was speechless. This was another world. The idea of having the Red Whale's dragon as an ally would be beneficial, although she knew the boy was smart. If he joined her directly, he would be handing over the boosted gear to the demons, which could turn out a bit bad. Even so, she knows she must make the most of this opportunity. Okay, I accept your contract for now. Give me your hand, Rius said, to which Issei obeyed and gave her left hand. She drew a circle with her fingers, and from it emerged the Gremry coat of arms, a sign of their alliance. Now they will know that you are under my protection. Perfect. With this I'm leaving, said Issei, to take Rius' hand in his and kiss it, causing both women to blush. See you later, Himejima senpai. Rius senpai, said Issei, walking down the stretch towards the exit. Once outside, both girls sat down and had tea, Akino happy because her mistress had fulfilled another of her whims. It will fall, be patient, said Akino. What she didn't expect was to see Rius' reaction. She was looking towards the window, with a big blush on her cheeks, an intensity that had not been seen in her eyes, and an expression of joy and something of dreaminess also marked by desire and lust. Akino, that child must be mine. At any cost, she said, determined to fulfill her greatest whim. If she must take her life to have him forever by her side, as a simple accessory to always treasure, then it is more than justified. Chapter 5. Meeting the Nun and the Fallen. A week had passed, yes, only a week, since our dear brown-haired boy had left his life in middle school to go to high school. At the Ko Academy he had been crowned as one of the most handsome boys of all, although more than his physical attractiveness it was his tender and considerate nature, which managed to attract a large number of girls and the occasional teacher who seemed to him to be an incredible and brilliant young man. Although from the male population, Issei had earned immense hatred, although now that hatred is going to increase. Hello, Issei-senpai, said the white-haired girl from the classroom, Kaneko, without any expression on her face. Issei turned around to greet the girl. Hello, Tuja-san. But why do you call me senpai, if I'm younger than you? Said Issei, pointing out the obvious. Kaneko simply shrugged her shoulders and sighed in response before leaving the room, although she was somewhat surprised when she left. Good morning, Rius Bucho. The little girl welcomed the crimson-haired third year. Hello, Kaneko, the redhead welcomed. Rius caught the attention of all the spectators for her beauty. Tell me, is Issei in the living room? Yes, he's inside. Do you want me to call him? No, there's no need. I want to talk to him in private, said Rius, entering the room. Kaneko simply looked inside and then continued on her way. When he entered, he made a quick movement and closed the door. Hearing the sound of the door handle closing, Issei raised his gaze. There he noticed it. When Rius and Issei made eye contact, the brunette felt that in front of him there was a predator waiting to pounce on its prey, not that it was far from reality. Hello, Issei, Rius said, greeting the boy. Hello, Rius-senpai, Issei said, greeting the redhead. Oh, come on, just call me Rius, Rius said upon seeing the young man. I can't talk to a senpai like that, Issei said. Well, never mind. Hey, Issei, wanna play? Rius said, showing the chessboard to the young man. Issei had noticed the board. Chess was always one of his favorite games, so he smiled and accepted. Sure, okay. Rius simply smiled at that, and so began one of the meetings and games between the two. Issei and Rius had started a little game with these visits. First, there were the glances in the hallways, a simple hello, goodbye, in addition to enjoying each other's attention. Then Rius was keeping an eye on the younger. Both in the hallways and in classes, especially in sports, although these moments cannot be private since the entire school was always watching them, the men looked at Issei with the envy that killed them. Anyone who was with Rius Gry-sama had to die. Anyone, and the women looked at Rius with some jealousy and talking about her. Although the redhead does not worry about anything thanks to her great reputation. She's just a senpai taking care of her kohai. I smile at the thought. Yes, she will love to take care of Issei, there is no doubt about that, although she knows she must be clever if she wants to have the young man in her entourage the good way. Tell me, Issei, how have you been? Have you adapted well to Ko Academy? Me? Yes, I've been doing very well, and I feel like I'm getting used to it, but the question is, how have you been, senpai? I'm fine, Rius said, moving one of her pieces in a major move. Tell me, have you thought about joining my entourage? Well, I ask you to forgive me, but at the moment I'm still tied up in some personal matters, so I can't join for the moment, said the youngest, apologizing. The truth is, when he told Renair the story and the proposal, she exploded in rage, grabbed the young man by his shirt and lifted him up, to his surprise. In addition to putting him against the wall with his shoulders raised. Don't even think about it, Issei-kun, or you'll regret it a lot. He still gets the chills knowing that, although he still doesn't quite understand what the problem with her is. I mean, the young man is a dragon, a being that does what he wants. Plus his sister is in Rius's entourage. No? But what about your sister? Don't you want to take care of her? Issei felt the sting of Rius' typical joke with Sarah. Besides, if you're with me, you'll learn many things, Issei. Let me show you a world that's beyond the underworld itself, beyond this whole reality. Where only you and I will achieve glory, he said that last thing with a somewhat low tone, licking his lips and feeling the taste of demonic pride and without shudder on his lips. Issei turned a little red at that point. He was young, somewhat slow, but he wasn't clumsy. He understood the hints, or most of them, so he just gulped as he imagined that fantasy world, wondering if it would be as bad as it seemed. Maybe not. SW? Tell me, Issei Hyoudou, are you willing to tempt the devil? Well, I think it's best to go, Issei said, amusing the conversation. That? Yes, I mean, if looks could kill, I think I'd be 3 feet under by now, said Issei, pointing outside. Through the window you could see the entire male population of the school devouring the brunette with their eyes. Rius just became serious. You know that doesn't matter to me, right? I'm an immortal being that will live longer than all of them together. Do you think something as simple as human social thought could interest me? Maybe not you, senpai, but I am human. A special one. But one counts in the end, said Issei. Rius just sighed and stopped playing. The score was in favor of the brown-haired boy. No one had beaten him like that apart from Sona, so with Issei's help she began to pick everything up. When they were about to leave, the redhead played his last card. Like the king when he is in trouble in a game of chess, he must save his game, or die trying. Issei noticed Rius's shadow behind him. When he turned around he noticed how the demon came towards him with her arms outstretched. Before he could react, Rius buried Issei between her developed breasts with a bear hug. Tell me, what do you want most? What? Issei said in shock in the middle of the hug. What do you want most? Rius said, applying more strength. I am a devil. As you know, I am an entity that feeds on the desires of the human being. Basically, I fulfill wishes in exchange for a favor. I offer you eternal life, wealth, power. Tell me, Hyoudou Issei, Sekiryuutei, what do you want? At that, Issei stopped fighting against the hug and relaxed. Really? Yeah? Rius felt her gaze freeze. Her body stopped responding and everything around her turned black. Issei's always candy eyes, as golden and bathed as the Japanese summer sunset, had changed to a hue so red that it looked like a ruby instead of an eye. She felt the sensation of emptiness and nothingness, of everything in the universe. An idea of how the world was destroyed and rebuilt around herself. She felt attracted, excited, caramelized. It was a feeling of gravity that attracted everything in front of her. Do you really want to know my wish? My reason for being? Yes, I want, said Rius. In that case, time was interrupted by a noise. Outside, someone had fallen from one of the branches they were hanging from to look. Ouch, that hurt. Shut up, you idiot. They both sighed and Rius released Issei, at his small complaint. We better go, Issei. Yes, it is better, said the brown-haired man. The next day. Another day began in Ko City. The brown-haired boy and his sister were walking straight to the academy. While the brown-haired girl was talking about her problems with algebra, Issei was thinking about Rius's proposal, that had not let him sleep well at night, that, and the memory of her warm breasts on his face, apart from him. The one who kept the most reason of all, told him to stay on good terms with the demon. That would help him with the fight against the stray demons and he would stay abreast of Sarah's situation. But there was the fact of not being able to join her entourage. He already had too many weaknesses. The light was one of his most serious problems. In addition to the other detail, the Hakuroku, Azazel, had told him that the white was under the protection of the current demon king, Lucifer, and his family. An inappropriate approach would awaken a battle that in itself seemed absurd to him, although in the case of an armed conflict, there would be no way to protect either Sarah nor Rius. Something that she would never forgive herself in her life. A dry sound, like a blow against the floor, followed by a complaint, woke him up from his sleep. Ouch, why do I always fail? Issei turned in that direction, coming across a somewhat interesting sight. A pair of pure white panties. Their rear was exposed. That confused him and he blushed slightly, although at his sister's call he shook off that thought and prepared to help the fallen girl. Are you okay? Issei asked, offering his hand for her to get up. Yes, I'm sorry, but I tripped. A taste of wind blows and takes away the white veil that covers her hair and face, leaving them uncovered. Issei is stunned. She was a blonde girl, who by her features looked foreign. She had natural golden blonde hair, like a river, which when the air moved danced like a golden silk cape from some sultan. Green eyes like the largest emerald in the world, pale, cream-colored skin, and a look that reflected the innocence of a girl raised in the teachings of the church. Excuse me, her voice was somewhat soft, as well as very beautiful, but you can let go of my hand now. Huh! He was so deep in thought that he couldn't help but continue holding his hand, which when he realized he was embarrassed. Sorry. Don't worry, thank you very much for helping me, she said with a natural sincerity in her voice. Yes, you're welcome. Excuse me, could you do me please? Yes, tell me. Well, you see, Oni-chan, Sarah called to her brother, who had stayed behind. Were you behind? But you were ahead. And what do you want me to do? You ran away like crazy, said Sarah, falsely wiping the sweat from her forehead. And who was it? Sarah was speechless. The blonde in front of her brother was a nun. You could tell by her clothes, aura, and the crucifix she wore around her neck. Then her mind made a simple calculation. She was a demon. Plus, the blonde was a nun of the church. Nun plus demon equals a catastrophic result. Sarah? She is. Oh, I'm sorry I haven't introduced myself. My name is Hyoudou Issei. Nice to meet you, miss, said Issei, smiling. My name is Asia Argento. Please like it, said the blonde, now known as Asia Argento. Hello, said Sarah. Issei was surprised by that, until he remembered that little detail. She is my older sister, Hyoudou Sarah. Asia had smiled at the brunette. The latter thought that the blonde was kawaii. Oni-chan, we have to go. We'll be late, said Sarah in an attempt to get out of that situation. You can go ahead if you want, but Asia-san, you told me you needed something, right? Tell me what it is. Oh yes, you see, I'm lost. I'm looking for the church in this city. I'm a foreigner and I don't know the directions very well, and when I tried to communicate with people they simply don't understand me because I don't speak Japanese very fluently, said Asia, embarrassed to ask for such a favor. I see. Well, if I'm not mistaken, the only church in the city is that one, right? Said Issei, pointing to an old building that rose above the hill, worn by time and weather. Really? Thank you, said Asia, happy to reach her destination. But it wouldn't be a good idea to leave you alone in a city you don't know with people who don't understand you. I will accompany you, said Issei. Thank you very much, Issei-san, Asia said, happily blushing at the young man. Okay, Wani-chan, if you want, go ahead, I'll catch up with you later, said Issei. No, Sarah said, surprising them both. I mean, it would be very bad of me to leave you with all the work of helping Argento-san, so I will accompany them. Sounds good. What do you say, Asia-san? It's no problem for me. It's very kind of you. God has sent 2 angels to help me. Thank you, Kami-sama, said Asia, posing in a prayer position, which gave Sarah a small headache. So the 3 adventurers continued their way to the church, the only and oldest in the entire city. On the way they did not hesitate to share their story. The brothers told her that they were from the city and that they were in high school. Asia was struck by the fact that Issei was much younger than the average high school student. Something that the brown-haired boy said he would explain to her another day. Then it was the nun's turn to say who she was. She had said that she had been born in a small town in Italy. Not knowing her parents, she had been raised in the orphanage and was always devoured by God. Her mission was to bring God's message to the Japanese citizens, although the sadness in her eyes contrasted with the sincere smile that framed her lips. Issei was tempted to ask what had happened but decided that it was best to respect this girl's privacy. Sarah, on the other hand, wanted to finish quickly. She wanted problems for him. At that dry sound of something falling to the floor, and the cry of a child brought them all to attention, noticing with their eyes the infant who was sitting on the floor, stifling his cries because of the wound on his knee. This caught Asia's attention, who ran faster than lightning to be by the boy's side. Upon arrival, I noticed that the child was holding his knee, which was bleeding slightly. Yeah, real men don't cry over this, Asia said sweetly, caressing the boy's head with her hands and placing them on the open wound. You see, the divine grace of our God. Quickly a pair of rings appeared on the nun's fingers. Thanks to these a greenish light appeared on the palms of her delicate hands. The emerald glow shocked everyone. It's a sacred gear, Sarah said quietly, feeling the tickle of her own sacred weapon. It's not just any sacred gear, it's a twilight healing, Issei thought when he saw that pair of rings with our names engraved, that pair of rings for 2 lovers, v. Once the magical glow had subsided, Asia drew her hands, surprising the boy even more, as he had patted his previously injured leg, which was now completely healthy. He smiled and stood up with great enthusiasm. Thank you very much, Wani-san, said the younger one. The young man's mother quickly arrived, somewhat frightened by what she saw. She took her son and took him away without saying anything. Hey, aren't you going to thank him? Sarah said, somewhat outrageous at the way the nun was treated. There's no need for me, said Asia. Yes, but you did, said Issei, with the doubt in the air. Oh, said Asia, who had realized that she had not told them about her blessing. You see, this is a gift that my Lord gave me when I was a child. It is a power to heal all the people in the world, and I. Wani-san. They heard from afar, noticing the child who had escaped from his mother's clutches. Thank you, Wani-san. Asia smiled happily, seeing how the boy had said goodbye to her, as did the brothers, who couldn't believe what they saw. They continued on like this without asking any more questions until they reached their destination. The entrance to the church was on that same street. Well, there you see the church, somewhat old and deteriorated, said Issei, looking at the structure of the building. But there are lights inside, he thought, noticing the lights on that were coming through the window. There must be someone there. It would be better to be alert. This gives me a bad feeling, he said, and turned to see Sarah, who was somewhat dizzy and even green, wanting to vomit. I suppose that since she is a demon, being near the church is bad for her. What a great deduction, Sherlock Holmes, said Drake mockingly to his container. Shut up, He thought to cut connection with Dragón and speak to Asia. Well, this is the only church in the city. Are you sure this is where they summoned you? Issei said, not very sure. Forks, thank you very much. I don't know how to repay you, said Asia, happy that her odyssey was over. No need, I needed help, now let's go, Onii-chan, said Sarah to little Dizzy. Yes, okay, well, Asia-san, Issei said. Wait, wouldn't you like to come in for a cup of tea? Asia said, trying to get them to stay longer. Excuse us, but we don't have time. I would still like to have tea with you another time, Asia-san, said Issei, taking the nun's hand. To her super blush for never having had contact with anyone so closely, Issei, he smiled at her and said goodbye. Let's go, Onii-chan, said Issei, but then a drop of sweat fell down his head. Sarah was biting a handkerchief very hard, and her head was steaming. The idiot was always like that. With every little woman he met, he showed the attitude his mother had instilled in him, but with her, he always acted normal. They even fought like brothers. That wasn't fair, it wasn't fair, for God's sake, ouch. Hey, are you okay? Forks, yes, I'm fine. Are you sure? You're very red, Issei said, trying to take his sister's temperature, seeing how bright red she was. Baka, said Sarah, kicking Issei, which he dodged without much trouble. See, come on, we're late, said Sarah, running like the devil himself. Okay, said Issei. He had noticed that Asia had already made her way to the church. Asia Argento, you'll have to endure a little. Every sacrifice is justified if it's for the greater good. On the way, when Sarah finally got over her dizziness, she realized something she overlooked, something she didn't think about at the moment because she was holding her breakfast in her guts. How in hell had her brother understood that girl? Asia was clearly speaking Italian, trying to put in Japanese kanji to communicate without much success. She could understand thanks to the natural ability of her evil piece. As a knight of Rius Gry, she could understand any language like Japanese, her mother tongue, but her brother was a normal child, right? She would ask him later. Maybe he was taking Italian classes. She knew her brother was weird. Although when he reached him, he could notice that Issei was looking lost, somewhat scared, thinking about everything that would come. Are you okay? Onii-chan, said Sarah. Hey. Oh yes, Issei said. From the floor above, the third-year floor, Rius watched all the students arrive at the facility, with dreams, illusions and wishes to fulfill in their short lives. Rius looked at that with boredom. Time was not monotonous for her. But tired, she wondered how to defy the law of time in her body. She will not die young, that is impossible. Either because of her race or family situation, but she always wanted to wonder what it would be like to live on the edge of knowing that in less than 100 years, you lose everything, there is nothing left. The darkness in his sky blue gaze disappeared, like the dawn of the blue sea, when the king star of his soulmate flooded his soul and fulfilled his wish to make some of that loneliness disappear. So, this is the young promise you told me about? Rius. Yeah. Behind her, leaning against the column, Sauna Shirtorai, the Iron President, looked at her red-haired friend. Her intellectual glasses shone above her dark amethyst eyes. She sighed and shifted her weight on her other leg as she looked closely at that dwarf. She couldn't perceive anything about him, nothing, beyond an intellect that managed to stand out above the mass of boys who picked their noses and looked at the sky instead of the girls. She sighed again when she saw that her friend did nothing, according to her, to understand this eagerness. I don't understand what you see. Don't you see that he's too young? You should be thinking about the other matter, Rius. Yes, was his simple and somewhat blunt answer. That's there? This is not the time to get sentimental, Sauna. I understand the problem, but this is not the time to worry. You trust your brother too much to solve your problem, don't you? Yes, but I also have an ace in case it goes wrong, said Rius. I prefer to die without glory or honor than to be someone's trophy. Well, okay, we'll think of something later, Sauna said. After that exchange of dialogue, everyone went to their respective classrooms, including the brothers. Issei was wandering between his answers to the questions and problems that were located in his other life. Any sacrifice is justified for the sake of world peace. How much truth is there in these empty words? After morning classes, the break was for lunch and the return until the afternoon. Around 5 p.m. in Japanese land, the clubs from different areas met for their activities. The Kendo Club was beating up the perverts Matsuda and Motohama as usual. The Manga Club was releasing their weekly version of Shotokona's Wet Dreams, with the previous volume included and a full-color version, popular among high school students, a love story between the hero of humanity, a 12-year-old teenager, and the Demon King. An elegant succubus who ends up falling for him. There was also Love Cruise on the Tamesis, popular among boys, a pure vanilla and to the bone about two childhood friends separated by fate, who meets abroad. Although we are getting off topic, the club that is the protagonist of this story, the ORC, was meeting as they do daily, although there was something different. Kaneko was eating her usual traditional sweets when a loud noise was heard, which if it weren't for the barrier put in place would end up being heard by the entire academy. "Don't come near the church again," a very angry Rius reprimanded her newest servant. But nothing, Sarah, do you understand what you could have unleashed if that act was misinterpreted? For a devil to be close to the church is already an act of suicide, but being with an affiliate, worse, a nun, can be a declaration of war between him and the mouse, said Rius. Why, yes, I understand. I hope Sarah thinks about your actions. You are not alone in this. If you die, we will be forced to deploy all our forces on Japan, unleashing a war, said Rius. Sarah was in a corner somewhat depressed. She knew she should stay quiet, but her sense of responsibility always gets her into trouble. I understand, Rius-sama. Please, I will go make some contract. Well, Sarah, I don't think I need to remind you what will happen if an exorcist ends up killing you. Your body will become nothing. Your soul will not ascend to heaven or hell. You will be part of nothing, everything and nothing at the same time. You will end up destroyed. Think about your family? What will happen to your mother? Your brother? Said Rius. Sarah was filled with the terror of dying on a fateful day. She imagined herself as nothing. Her brother and mother would live without knowing about her, and without any body to watch over and bury. In addition, a small thorn in her shoe told her that she should not trust leaving Rius to her brother. Something told her no. After that, and glancing at her Crimson King, Sarah jumped into a contract using a transportation magic circle. Rius had started looking out her window. Akino was making tea in the next room and Kaneko was eating cookies, but with her eyes fixed on the outside. Is something wrong, Kaneko? Rius asked. Nothing, Bucho, I just have a feeling that this will be a somewhat busy night, said Kaneko. Rius just nodded and put her fingers on her chin as if she was thinking. Between the leafy tree next to the building, Issei sat comfortably on the edge of the tree. At first he thought of interrupting that, scolding Sarah for something that was her fault, but thinking again, Rius was right to be angry, so he let it go, although what came to mind the most was what little Kaneko said, this will be a long night. So the Nikomata can see the future? He said, getting up from his position and looking towards the night that hides the theater curtain. These lands are property of the only emperor in the world. The magic circle appeared at the entrance of the house. Sarah opened her eyes and was surprised to see where she had arrived. That's strange. I usually appear in front of the client, not at their door. Maybe I should call Bucho Na. It must be a connection problem, just like the Wi-Fi, said Sarah, downplaying that error. He took off his shoes and knocked on the door. Seeing that it was open, he decided to enter. Hello, the door is open, said Sarah without receiving an answer. How strange. Hello, they ordered a devil from Gremory here. Hello ho, said Sarah as she walked to the living room when she saw that there was a light coming from it. But when she arrived she was speechless, choked by her own words that got stuck in her throat. Before her, the most brutal scene she had ever seen in her life spread out like a drawing. On the wall, the unrecognizable body of what was once a human being was nailed in the form of a crucifix, with its arms extended wide in a grotesque T-shape, with its mutilated legs at its side. Its belly was wide open, its entrails spilling onto the floor accompanied by blood and putrefaction. On the wall, drawn in large, bright red letters written with the vital liquid, it read, "This is the punishment of sinners." A great view, isn't it? Said a macabre voice, devoid of all humanity and decency of a human being in society. She turned slowly. She was so caught up in the spectacle that she didn't notice. It was a man who was sitting on the central sofa, with his legs one over the other, very relaxed, she would say. By his appearance he seemed to be no more than 20 or 22 years old. As he slowly stood up she could notice the elegant church clothes. Exorcist? Well, what do we have here? A very hexy demon. Ask, how many contracts will they give you just for your body? Succubus, she said with contempt, depravity and insult. Sarah clenched her fists from the rage and general fear she felt in her body. Did I insult you? Did you get offended? Demon with morals, don't look at me like that, that turns me on, but, unfortunately for you beautiful, I'm not attracted to shitty demons, much less teenagers, said the man, starting to laugh like crazy. I'm sorry, I haven't introduced myself. I am the almighty, beautiful and super strong Father Freed. Greetings, shitty demon. Now I will proceed to kill you and cut you into pieces, ha 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 ha, although maybe, should I use your body first? Of course I would kill you later. No, better first I kill you, and then I use your body as my personal toy. Yes, ha 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 ha, that's better. How smart you are, Freed, although I stop leaving the body intact as much as I can. You're crazy, you dirty, depraved lunatic. I won't let you touch me, Sarah said in a battle pose. I hope you're ready. That? Before saying anything else, Sarah had moved at great speed, had disappeared from Freed's sight and appeared a few steps behind him, which surprised the madman. I've never lost sight of a prey before. I'm not just any damsel in distress, you idiot, Sarah said at the same time that a light came out of her hands. Yes, empowered. The light takes shape before Freed's eyes. It was an elongated handle, thin but resistant, with a dark red sheath, in addition to some similar marks to ancient Japanese letters on the handle. On a white surface on a crimson-red background. At the same time, Freed gives him a powerful kick that Freed stops with his arms. He flies out and lands a few steps behind my sacred gear. Allows me to summon a white weapon, which adapts to my qualities. I have practiced kendo all my life and I have become very good. Plus this weapon has one more surprise for idiots like you, Sarah said somberly. She unsheathed her sword. The edge was a metallic chrome color on the edge, with details of crimson flames on the blunt end of the blade. The handle had a decoration in the shape of flames, apart from the fact that its aura was a deep red, like the flames of a cauldron soul eater in the fire. Sarah quickly moves again, quickly, disappearing from Freed's sight again to appear behind him again. That? Sarah doesn't say anything as she launches a cut aimed at the white-haired man's face. He steps back and moves his neck backwards to avoid the cut that grazes the bangs on his face. He watches in fear as his strands of hair are burned as if among embers. What the hell? Said Freed when he realized that this weapon was lethal. Its aura was crimson, like fire, but not with a hot flame. It was a cold terror, a feeling of fear and stress like when you are at the gates of Hades, something that Freed knew perfectly how it felt. Sarah doesn't say anything as she shoots towards Freed again like a missile, quickly unleashing a series of cuts from all angles trying to hit him. Even so, Freed manages to dodge each of Sarah's blows and retreat to be able to attack. From between his coat he manages to extract a silver pistol, which looked more like it was for hunting werewolves than demons, and the handle of a sword. Hey, do you know what? Said Sarah, but fell when she saw that threads of light came out of the handle which sewed the blade of a sword. What the hell? Ha 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 ha, great, right? You were amazed by my charms and my tricks, ha 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 ha. What is this, a battle, a sword fight, or a Star Wars conference? Why then? I'd rather go home and see my little brother, said Sarah. Hey, this lightsaber is the best, plus there's nothing more cult than the Star Wars saga. A girl like you wouldn't understand it, said Freed, throwing slaps here and there with his sword and the occasional shot besides. Really? So desperate that you're looking for incest, huh? Well, shitty demon stuff, said Freed with a retarded face to a Sarah with a blush bigger than her king's hair, both from rage and from getting unholy ideas that would please neither God nor the devil. Hey, I know I'm irresistible to little girls, but that's too much, stalker, said Freed with a voice that would fool any judge in court. In addition to Sarah's red face, and the thread of blood from her nose, and smoke coming out of her head. Enough, Sarah had quickly launched a slash shortening the distance between them, which Freed deflected with his sword. Adjusting herself better, Sarah launched another even more powerful attack which Freed took a while to react, so they continued throwing deadly blows and slashes throughout the house, destroying the furniture. Sarah quickly launches a kick which Freed blocks with her arm while launching a stab. Sarah steps back and Freed launches again into a close-range fight. Both opponents launch their slashes which resonate throughout the house. In that, Sarah manages to land a blow on Freed that deflects his sword and launches a vertical slash with the intention of splitting him in two. Freed blocks with his sword of light, and Sarah makes a bitter attempt to launch another blow from above. But in reality, she ends up launching a kick that hits Fried and makes him reach the sofa, which he destroys with his fall. Although recovering quickly, Fried throws the sofa aside while laughing like crazy. This time, Sarah gets even angry and envelopes her weapon in an intense red aura, launching a slash that Fried dodges and damages the wall and continues into the hallway. "Oh, but what aggression," says Fried in game mode. "Stop talking, bastard." The demonic energy of the sword and sacred collide in the air, unleashing a shower of sparks accompanied by the blow between the edges of both weapons. Sarah firmly hits Fried's defense, and he knows how to respond to each attack with great speed. In that, Fried launches a stab to Sarah's neck, which she dodges and hits with her handle on the young man's wrist, who resists the blow. Sarah launches a final stab in Fried's abdomen, which he dodges by the skin of his teeth. Going back. "You know what? This does seem like a battle from the Star Wars movies. Obviously, I'm the sensual Yeti master, and you're the evil one." He couldn't continue due to a kick that Sarah gave him in the face. "You really have had enough of him." "Yay, my nose, my beautiful and sensual nose, now you've got a ticket," said Fried, throwing himself more fiercely. "You screwed up. Say hello to Satan." "Don't worry, I'll send you to him." Both then collide again in the middle of the field. In that, Fried makes a face as if he remembered something and takes a few steps back. "In fact, I had forgotten the gun," said Fried as if it were the most normal thing in the world. With his stupid face, Sarah had her jaw dropped and looked at him like an idiot. "Is this my enemy?" "Hey, I heard that, plus I just took a lot of mercury. I'm immortal, lol. There is no doubt that I am fighting with an idiot." "So take your stupid bullets courtesy of Father Fried," Fried said, firing off a large number of bullets. Sarah then uses her sword to deflect one from her body, but in doing so she realizes something. "Not without normal bullets." "No, of course not. They're special bullets for hunting bucking demons like you." Sarah thought of one thing: demon plus light equals dead demon. At that, Fried fires another burst at the demon, who deflects the bullets with his sword and reflexes, although in a moment of carelessness one of the bullets manages to hit her, piercing her leg and causing Sarah to fall to the ground in great pain. Ready to die?" Fried said, slowly approaching her. "You wish you were bucking schizophrenic," said Sarah, launching a series of cuts leaning on the other leg. In that, Fried pulls the trigger again, this time the duo shot on Sarah's other leg. She falls to her knees to the ground while trying to stifle her screams of pain. Fried noticed that and smiled. "It hurts, right? It's normal. The light is a deadly poison for you and us. We feel like all our blood is evaporated from our bodies and like life is slowly taken away. Just like you, many demons tried to escape, but that's the case," said Fried, getting closer to her. "None can escape." Sarah was really scared. She knew that if she didn't do something, what Rius told her this afternoon was going to happen. She was going to die, and neither her mother nor brother would be able to know how or why. She closed her eyes, which were beginning to tear up, waiting for the final blow. Fried raised his sword to strike, but... "Father Fried, I have already installed the barrier you asked me to," said a voice from the hallway. "Father Fried? For God's sake, what happened?" The voice came from Asia, the nun who was entering the room. She looked in horror at the scene of the man crucified on the wall, as well as the rest of the grotesque spectacle. "Oh, Asia-chan, I forgot you're new. You'll see, this is what we do to shitty demons, like her," said Fried, making the light of his blade illuminate the hair of the brunette, who looked at the blonde in astonishment. "Sarah-san?" Asia said, looking at the brunette and remembering the peculiar pair of siblings who helped her get to the church. "Sarah-san, is she a demon?" In response, Sarah simply lowered her gaze. "I didn't want to do anything. I'm not bad, I swear." "What is this? You already know each other." "Oh, Asia-chan, that's bad. A secret Yuri love between a demon and a nun. Ha 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 ha. Be thankful if I see it that way. Anyway, you know the bosses won't like it, but I'll forgive you if you kill this demon yourself," said Fried. "What? The servants of the Lord do not kill anyone, please. Free Sarah-san. She helped me get here," said Asia, defending the brunette to her astonishment. Being a nun, and she a demon, she believed that she would despise her. "I do not care what you say. The servants of God cannot go around killing people." The sound of the slap drowned out the nun's voice. She had received a strong blow from Fried, which had knocked her down and left her with an ugly mark on her cheek, as well as a broken lip from which a trickle of blood was flowing. Listen to me carefully, you blonde hitch, don't you ever mention that bastard's name in front of me again, Fried said, taking Asia by the collar of her dress, lifted her off the ground and slammed her against the wall with force, holding her while with the edge of his sword he tore the top of her dress, which gave way to her white bra. This one had also been cut, revealing her medium-sized breasts. At the same time Fried used his gun to lift her skirt. Taking a look at her white panties, Asia watched in fear as Father Fried took a disgusting and grotesque look at her figure. The natural fear invaded her system, shown in the dilation of her frightened eyes. They gave me the explicit order not to kill or hurt you, but to hell with that. If that stupid Renair kills me later, it doesn't matter, so I'll let you know who's in charge, little one, said Fried as he took one of Asia's breasts. Being of a medium size, they changed perfectly in his hand, squeezing it so hard that it made her scream in pain. Ah! Scream all you want, no one will come for you. At that, rage took over Sarah to a great extent. She knew that both were her natural enemies, but Asia had worried about her and pleaded for her forgiveness. That bastard did not deserve to put his hands on them. The adrenaline took effect in her system. She felt her thick blood run throughout her body. Suddenly her legs started working again. She could feel them, so she quickly took advantage of the adrenaline rush and jumped on the crazy Fried. Enough, Fried, Sarah said, throwing a punch that the exorcist couldn't avoid, connecting in his face. This blow was much faster than the previous one. Besides sending him crashing against the damaged furniture, it broke his nose and knocked out a tooth. Ay damn hitch, no more nice, Fried. I'm going to kill you, said Fried, preparing his sword. Well, try it, you idiot, we'll both go to the grave. Fried didn't take that comment very well and launched himself to attack the brunette who was covering the blonde. Kaya. But then a magic circle shines in the middle of the room. From it a young blonde boy teleports. He carried a sword in his hand. He had metallic blue eyes and a mole under his left eye. He smiled at the exorcist and managed to push him away. I'm sorry, but the young lady is coming with us, said the blonde. You took too long, Kiba, Sarah said in pain. You didn't call Sarah-san, said the one known as Kiba. More demons appeared from the portal. Era, there's a big mess here, said Akino, crossing the portal. Exorcist, said Kaneko, looking with evil eyes at the white-haired boy. Well, it's my lucky day, look at all the demons. Era, I think no demon is capable of committing this act, said Akino, looking at the scene while holding her chin. Yeah, the gaze of the black-haired demon makes me hard. What is this? Love or killing instinct, said Fried. He is crazy, said Sarah. Okay, enough talking, gentlemen, it's time to slaughter your oops, he said, but before finishing he had flown away due to an explosion, which knocked down part of the inner wall. Rius had made an appearance. Smoke was coming out of her hand, a sign of having fired her power. Bucho, Sarah said. Sarah, I'm sorry, I thought there were no exorcists in the area. I should have been more careful. Does it hurt? Said Rius, showing true concern for her peace. No, I'm fine, said Sarah, holding back the urge to cry. Rius, smiling, hugs her. You were always very stubborn. Now, as for you, she said, looking at Fried, this girl is my property. She belongs to me. You will pay for having damaged one of my belongings. Well, you must be the boss of bosses. Bucho, fallen angels. They are coming, said Kaneko, sensing the presence of her enemies. Okay, we're leaving. Kaneko is carrying Sarah. We have to go, said Rius while facing Fried, but open up with you first. Do you think you have a chance with me? If I had wanted to be busted, your parents wouldn't have met, said Fried. I wish, said Rius, releasing her power of destruction. Fried jumped to the side, dodging the energy pillar that finished knocking down the wall. Hey, that could have hurt someone, said Fried, firing his bullets of light, although Rius's own aura disintegrated the bullets. Hey, I didn't see that coming. Bucho, I have senpai. Perfect, we're going, Rius said, turning her back on the exorcist. Never turn your back on your busted enemy. Although before falling, Kiba's sword came between Rius's body and Fried's weapon. That? A king does not need to face his enemies. As long as he has his servants, he can turn his back on whomever he wants. You are such a pain. Rius had activated the magic circle while Kiba took care of Fried. Sarah, whose vision was already somewhat blurred due to blood loss, made out Asia's figure. Wait, Bucho, we also brought the nun. This magic circle can only carry members of the Gremry nobility. I can't bring anyone else. But Bucho. Okay, we'll see you later, Sarah-san, Asia said with a smile, while covering her body. Asia, Sarah said, looking at the blonde, then her eyes met someone else. What? Bucho, we have to go back, Oni-chan is here. What are you talking about? Just saw it, we have to bring it. Sarah, that's impossible. When she realized, the magic circle had already left.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.